But you can see even without having to go through and touch it up, it still looks very nice. It blends really, really nicely together. Okay, let's take a look at the horns here. So you can see you can just quickly add and rotate any kind of preset brushes, and you can make your own preset brushes. And you can see just how much quicker this will make modeling, especially like character and creature design. Okay, this is supposed to be scales here, so let's just take a look at that. Okay, so this is a preset one where it's its own size and you can't change the size. But you can see you can change the orientation of where it will actually get placed. So let's just place a few of these, see if we can get this looking interesting. You can see just how quickly you can make something like this. But yeah, definitely with these preset brushes you can make something a thing of nightmares. But this is really cool and really powerful. You can see here in within the instructions here, it even tells you how to enable the VDM brushes. So to enable the vector displacement for a draw brush, load and open EXR file suited for vector displacement, open set brush texture mapping to area plane, and enable the vector displacement toggle. So like I said, you can do this with your own, so you can create your own kind of presets for sculpting, and I'm sure this will get incorporated into a lot of people's workflows, and this is going to make creature sculpting so much quicker than it did previously. I mean, just look how quickly you can just add in these to give him scales. Now if we take a look at the brush settings here, we do have radius and radius units, as long as the strength, the direction, all the settings here. And again, taking a look at these instructions, they do tell you that VDM brushes work best on smooth surfaces. Try to avoid any overlaps with previous strokes, and as you know, we've taken a look here, it does seem to get a bit funky when too much is added on all at once. Like those horns are definitely messed up, and you can see once they do start overlapping, it does get a little bit funky, but for the most part, really, really powerful. Okay, well that was the vector displacement mapping brushes. If you'd like to check out these demo files for yourself, the links will be in the description below. Taking another look into the hair nodes that just got added, there is a demo file for animals' fur. You can see here at the moment we've got the Highland cattle selected, and we just
One day, in a Chinese city, precisely at the Public Security Bureau, officers are interrogating a retired soldier named Xiao Bing. They interrogate him about the unit from which he retired, but he prefers to keep it a secret. It piqued the boy's interest, who is also the protagonist in this story. Our protagonist is suspected of causing intentional harm to the son of the eldest member of the Z family, who recently broke the leg of one of his children. The protagonist asserts that while he was driving that day, that boy ran over an elderly man and then attacked him. The protagonist, who witnessed the scene, was unable to remain indifferent and taught him a lesson. Our protagonist appears from nowhere and breaks the boy's leg with his arm as he was assaulting a poor old man. The affluent boy is furious with the protagonist. He has no idea where he came from, and his father would instruct him to take him away. Our protagonist was arrested for the obvious reason that he is the one with the least amount of power, since he messed with people he should not have messed with. To be exact, very powerful people. But that was not the entire point. On another occasion, when the deceased was the leader of the Village District gang, the protagonist asserts that he was the leader, that he was in possession of illegal substances, and that he was intentionally causing harm in self-defense. Officials could see that our protagonist was winning the debate, so they had no choice but to arrest him. The officer is confident because he is the one who will present all the evidence in court. Consequently, the odds were in his favor. The protagonist sees the officer and tells him that he admires those who administer justice, but despises those who exploit it for their own benefit, such as himself. The protagonist informs him that he can catch him, but cautions him to act quickly. Remember a statement he made prior to his arrest. He would go to prison, but would soon see him in hell. 3 days ago, we were in a location where we observed thugs making a mess in what appeared to be a restaurant. They caused all of this damage because they controlled the territory where the restaurant is located and was required to pay a fee. The restaurant's owners did not pay the fee, so they destroyed the business. On the other hand, we see a girl lying on the ground with severe chest pain, accompanied by her daughter, and the impact of seeing thugs destroy her restaurant is evident. This impacted her. That is where the main character appears, having recently completed his military service. The girl asks who he is. He replies that he came in the name of his sister. They become confused and ask if his sister is okay. Unfortunately, she had been killed in battle. The protagonist informs the girl that there is no time to consider her sister because her mother is in danger and must be rushed to the hospital. The protagonist's colleague arrives, and he instructs her to take care of both of them while he attends to business. The Dragon Gate has a traitor, and he will go after him. The protagonist was upset. They had harmed members of his inner circle, and he did not allow them to escape. However, his partner admires his imposing aura. Later in the disco, our protagonist went in search of the traitor, but the surrounding girls did not. They left because the disco is an overcrowded environment, and he has a clear objective. 2 men approach the main character while he is enjoying a beer at a bar and offer him magic powders. He does not believe it will be so simple to locate his target. Without hesitation, he places the bottle in one of the men's mouths and orders the other to retrieve it. Take with your employer. 2 hours earlier, we were in a city middle school where only the wealthiest students studied. In that faculty, a girl named Xiaoxi studies. She is admired by all for her immense beauty, but because she comes from a powerful family, she is always escorted. Her security is crucial. The girl is able to rid herself of the bodyguards and enjoy a normal night at the club. The escaped girl goes to a party at the Broken Finger Guys Club. The guy is impressed by the girl's beauty and tries to go overboard with her. She hits the guy and asks for help, but the Broken Finger Guy says that no one will come to help her. But he was mistaken. The protagonist appears as they approach her, hitting the finger brother and throwing him to the ground. The protagonist asks the girl if she is happy. The happy girl replies yes and introduces herself to the protagonist. The protagonist says yes, but backs down. The battle begins, and he removes his shirt. The girl is surprised by the protagonist's physique. He begins to fight, and in an instant, he has the men dying on the ground. The protagonist grabs the leader, causing the girl to hit him, and she gives him a massive kick in the nuts. After the fight, the girl thanks him for helping her and invites him to have a drink. The protagonist does not refuse since it is in gratitude, and he will deal with the matter later. He spends some time, and I love sitting on a bridge and having a drink with the girl. He tells her that if he had not been there, something bad would have happened. The girl tells her that these are very annoying and that she doesn't feel free because she was born into a wealthy family. She says that she doesn't like being born into a wealthy family because all the paths she has to take are controlled by her parents, and she just wants to be free. The protagonist asks the girl if she would like to fly, and to cheer her up, he grabs her arms and flies off with her. The bodyguards are surprised by the boy's ability to fly, and they pursue him. The protagonist continues to fly, and the girl feels even more liberated. I noticed something I'd never noticed before. She felt liberated. The girl tells him that he is very powerful and that there are many people like him. The protagonist lowers his head, and the girl is concerned because she thought he asked something that the protagonist shouldn't just told him that when I was in the army, a girl from his team always followed him. He faced difficulties with her, and he always treated her as his soulmate until the day she died, and she narrated this to the protagonist. Because the protagonist's past is difficult, because he was born an orphan and was only good to fight for what he was recruited to the army where he murdered too many people as a combat weapon, believing that he was only born to kill and die, the girl gives him a few words of encouragement that serve him too well, inspiring him too much, and providing him with more motivation. The protagonist informs the girl that he will be staying at a small noodle restaurant and that she must accompany him for a while. The girl agrees. Since it is difficult to obtain his private number, the director of public security receives a call in his private villa, as does an unknown caller. They inform him of every crime he has committed broken finger, from extortion to drug trafficking. The director of public safety warned him that he would be arrested for defamation if he did not use his real name. It is evident that the caller was our main character, who immediately hangs up and discards the cell phone. On the other hand, Broken Finger is concerned because he doesn't know who the main character is, and he needs me to investigate in order to find out who he is. A detailed account of this. Yes, it is possible that they will investigate ancestors, generations, and ancestors themselves if he does not find it. If he does not find it, they will begin searching for those who surround him. However, a voice can be heard from behind the broker. It was the protagonist, telling him to begin investigating who is involved since he had discovered it. The protagonist gets right down to business. In this house, he claims, there are enough drugs for him to spend 10 years in prison. He denies it and suggests that, rather than opposing it, he should join him. Since he was able to tell him that when he ended the year-long effort of his beloved's family by collecting dues and destroying the restaurant, he also caused the restaurant's waitress to suffer a heart attack, he informs the protagonist that he does. Since his beloved has asked him to care for his family, which he is willing to do, the protagonist has discovered that, in addition to abusing women, he also sold drugs, which has made him even more miserable. The boy begins to beg for his life. The protagonist will give him whatever he needs so that he does not harm him. The protagonist throws a dagger at him and asks him to kill himself. The boy is confused before killing himself. He will kill him first. The boy attacks the protagonist, attempting to kill him, but the fastest Protex kills him. The following day, they are given the results of the girl who had a heart attack. It turns out that she only had a tumor in her body, which will be surgically removed. But, unfortunately, the doctor was only comforting the patient. Now it was their turn to tell the truth. Both the girl and the protagonist are shocked. It turns out that he has cancer that is too advanced, and the likelihood that the surgery will be successful is extremely low. The protagonist looked for additional options, and the doctor suggested a famous surgeon who could perform the operation, but he made no guarantees. It appears that the protagonist knows the doctor they discussed. Xiao Bin encounters the woman, who inquires about her daughter. He tells her that her daughter could not come home because she has a lot of work to do, but that she will visit her as soon as possible. However, he is lying for her good. He did not wish for her to be devastated by the news that his daughter had passed away. The girl asks Xiao Bin for help since he does not have staff in the restaurant, and he tells her that yes, he could help her. Xiao Bin says yes, since he has learned various ramen techniques with his crush, and it will definitely help. In the same hospital, but in the VIP ward, the beautiful girl with green hair showed up to the boy who had been beaten by Xiao Bin, the same girl who was present when his leg was broken. The rich boy becomes elated. It must be of utmost importance that a female bring him illusions. The girl converses with the boy's father, who she has known for a long time. The father asserts that his son is not responsible for what transpired with Xiao Bin. He does not blame the boy because everything is Xiao Bin's fault. The girl even tried to frighten him by mentioning powerful surnames, but she did not care. The father of the boy is eager to teach Xiao Bin a lesson, while the girl departs due to her wealthy family affairs. The boy was still delusional about the beautiful girl, while the boy's father is furious. However, their families are wonderful. He would have definitely slapped her. When his wife threatens to divorce him if he does not teach Xiao Bin a lesson, his irritated father informs him that it is not his fault because many people misuse his surname. However, he is willing to exploit this circumstance to put her in danger. The following day, at the noodle shop, our hero assists the family in preparing noodles and assumes control. The noodle shop had reopened. After that occurrence, everything appeared to be going smoothly. They wanted to release the girl from the hospital so she could recover at home, unless something unexpected occurred. However, this is merely the result of a sleazy game, especially if the hospital director and the father of the rich boy who was standing behind her suddenly enter the room. Xiao Bin recognizes and understands all of this, and he is willing to confront the man who is blinded by his rage. The sick girl tells him that she will not fight in the worst-case scenario, and that they will go to a different hospital. However, this creates additional problems. The rich guy is so powerful that he will not allow any hospital to accept the girl and will leave the city regardless. Additionally, he has contacts, so your health will deteriorate to the point of death. The only thing the main character can't stand is when people mess with his family and friends. The self-assured guy tells the main character that in this regard, he gives him a penetrating look that knocks him to the ground, causing him to beg for mercy and reach for his underwear. Despite this,
Should I go with this? Should. The image should. Control. Oops. What up? Give you a nut. Right. That is what not showing. Showing. Might not showing though. This is making no sense. That's showing but not showing. Hi boy. What could be the problem? YouTube. See. Nope. YouTube. Kick. Streaming to Trovo. Okay. Be live. YouTube. YouTube. Error field to connect. Connecting. YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself now. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself now. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, why it ain't coming up here? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, why it ain't coming up here? YouTube. Oh, now I hear myself. Oh, this is annoying. Wait. Why? YouTube. Oh, why it ain't coming up here? YouTube. Alright, that should fix it. Got rid of those loose ends. So wonder. CD Live. Already streaming to Trovo. Keep saying error. I know what that means. YouTube. So D Live, YouTube, Trovo. Live and Trovo. Alright, so D Live up. The Live is up right now. This thing up, right up. Well, why not seeing the count? Supposed to be up. Streamlabs. I know what's going on. Something ain't right. Unless if I start it over again. Hopefully I don't have to start it over again. Hopefully. Widgets. Yes, I hear you. Alright, so these things are up. So I don't know. This is the count. Here. Counts. Display capture. Right. This is the live count here, but it's not showing up. Now why it's not showing up? This is up. This thing can be so weird when it's ready, have I? I don't understand this yet. CD live count. It's supposed to be up. Short notes. Okay. Maybe I need to get back. Maybe. Okay. Let's get that back. Counts, but I ain't seeing the other count. Unless if I delete it by accident. Could be. It's only one way to know this. Just oh, it come on then. It on. It actually showing up now though. So I did delete that one then. Okay. No, wait. When I delete that though, I didn't even know I deleted that. Let's do some shit sometime, yes? So That's what I will name it. Height have to be, let's see, the width. Let's put the width as 200. No. 6. Let's put the width at 600. Still lacking. Okay, let's put the width at 5. Good. That should look a bit better. So it's been 5 years, but stand up right now. Good video, right? The Modern Warfare, chatting. Warframe, music, interest. Ain't really on D Live right now. Stop. So now, stop. So now, stop.
The hospital's director did not wish to bring the girl closer, as he is in charge there. If he is the director and does something wrong, or if you violate his conscience, he will be punished, according to the protagonist. The doctor smiles and informs him that it will not be a commanding voice that will punish him. Until an old man with a beard suddenly enters, and the director recognizes him. What the hell was the guy doing there? It turns out that this elderly man is the partner of Xiao Bin, with whom we were initially conversing. The director of the hospital states that he admires him too much because he is the most influential figure in Chinese medicine and that he is learning from him. The elderly man views him with rage because he has learned to use medicine to punish the weakest for a small sum of money. Therefore, the old man, who held a higher rank in medicine than him, removed him from his position at the hospital and banned him from ever returning. The doctor is kicked out of the hospital, and his bodyguard tells the rich guy that it doesn't matter who he is. The hospital is not a place to flaunt one's wealth. Until he and his associates beg for his life, he informs Xiao Bin that his business in the city is not over. Still, they are kicked out, and the rich guy's bodyguard attempts to confront Xiao Bin, but all he manages to do is get a fist to the chin and tell his client that he is no match for Xiao Bin. From this vantage point, we can see the kingdom of martial arts, which explains how the different ranks are categorized based on levels and characteristics, beginning with a normal person who can achieve the refinement of Qi, where the true energy of himself is trained, and those who pass the stage gain more tenacity. Additionally, it enters the bone forge stage, which produces muscles and bones distinct from those of ordinary people. Those who pass this stage are able to shatter a brick and defeat 10 times as many ordinary people. The Ming Jing, upon achieving the stages of refining Qi forged from bones, is already regarded as a master by the general populace. While the Ming Jing stage is reserved for true martial arts masters, bones and bones. There are likely no more than 5 of these in the city, which makes them even more exceptional. The rich guy's plans did not come to fruition. He will have to seek reinforcements from another side. The doctor was examining the sick girl. He is so skilled that he has already reached perfection. Due to this, he believes there are no more challenges for him in the medical field. After the surgery's diagnosis was confirmed, it was scheduled for 2 days. Later, at the daughter's home of the sick girl, she discovers a box and is curious as to its contents. When she opens it, she sees a photograph of her sister, and she realizes that her sister has passed away. Xiao Bin had intended to tell her later, but she is blind by grief and insults him so much that he does not want to see him. In spite of this, he gives her the letter he left behind before passing away, and she comprehends the situation. Nevertheless, Xiao Bin can explain why she finds women's underwear. However, her appearance has changed. Later, the girl will take a shower, and while she is doing so, Xiao Bin will enter the bathroom. The girl, who already had a negative opinion of him, will conclude that he stole her underwear. Xiao Bin asserts in his defense that he is innocent and that he only entered the bathroom. The girl who was leaving was in a hurry and nearly kissed Xiao Bin when she tripped and fell on top of him. The girl screams as she experiences an odd sensation. Xiaobin apologizes to the woman because he did not intend for this to occur. The girl simply calls him insane, and he responds that she is the one who fell on him. The furious and humiliated girl strikes him in the groin. Later, the rich girl in love with Xiaobin arrives with her companions at the noodle shop. Xiaobin begins cooking for the girls, during which the rich girl observes him. However, there were additional customers who praised his Tai Chi and requested another round. He realized that this individual had noticed that he was incorporating Tai Chi into his movements, indicating that he has exceptional eyesight. The man informs him that Xiaobin is too wild, and now that they've mentioned it, they'd like to see him perform his impressive Tai Chi. This is when Xiaobin realized that these men were not there to eat. They are there to provoke you into a fight, so don't waste your time with them. The battle commences, and Xiaobin faces both of them. They rush Xiaobin, but his incredible movements manage to knock them out. The girl who is observing him from behind says that his technique transmits force through the wrist, which is what should make Xiaobin a slightly higher level than a Jin. This is a very good class with attributes that greatly strengthen the wearer, which is why the girls are so impressed with his talent. This self-assured individual tells him that these types of battles are easy for him. Another rich boy appears, and he is in love with Xiaobin's girlfriend. He enters the noodle shop and asks Xiaobin's girlfriend out on a date, but she is busy that night. This stunned individual informs him that he is not speaking to him. Since he was aware that she was unavailable, he responds that she has an appointment with him, which stuns him. He could not believe that Xiaobin had surpassed him. Perhaps he came from a wealthier family or was more powerful. This boy relied solely on his family to draw attention to himself and impress others. It turns out that this wealthy boy is the only nephew of the district police chief, and he also possesses a large fortune of unknown origin. The girlfriend of Xiaobin, who is already tired of this boy asking her out, warns you to stay away from her, especially now that she has a partner. Having power and wealth, they intend to break our protagonist's legs so that the girl will go with him. But this was a grave error, disrespecting Xiaobin's girlfriend, which caused him to become so enraged that he slapped him regardless of the power that boy possessed and told his girlfriend that he would answer yes if the appointment was still valid. As night falls, Xiaobin and his girlfriend plan to take her on an elegant date, so they go shopping for a suit while our protagonist measures his. The girl falls more in love with him to the point of almost kissing him, but a girl from the store interrupts them. In the end, they decide not to purchase the suit and go straight to their date, where they have dinner and then watch a movie. After that, they desire to return home, but he also has crazy imagination of his girlfriend, and the fantasy will be realized when the girl turns around and tells Xiaobin that she wants to kiss him, and if he doesn't, he'll lose his chance. Even though it is the first time for both of them, they kiss. The girl asks Xiaobin if he loves her, to which he responds, yes. She then informs him that beginning tomorrow, he must call her every night before going to bed to wish her good night. Xiaobin replies, of course I can do it, and takes her home at the end of the night. The following morning, the main character awakens. He does not know if the operation on the sick girl was successful. The daughter then appears and informs the main character that the operation was successful. The main character is relieved to hear this and tells the girl that she can stop worrying for the time being and go to school in peace, as he will take care of going to the hospital later. Already a peaceful morning is interrupted by the police chief in search of Xiaobin. This person informs him that he is under arrest because he is suspected of murder, based on the fact that they are facing consequences and assuming what he is. If you really want to arrest me, Xiaobin says, go ahead. However, the old man informs him that he has sufficient evidence to make him the prime suspect in that case, so he must accompany him whether he likes it or not. If he tries to resist, members of his family will open fire on him. Suddenly, the same girl who visited the wealthy boy appears and inquires about the director's activities. He responds that Xiaobin was subtracted from the girls. Since Xiaobin is an old friend of hers, he merely suggests that there may have been a misunderstanding, and she requests a moment alone with him. In reality, the girl does not know Xiaobin and admits that the wealthy boy is responsible for what occurred. That day, however, he was still present to request a favor. It turns out that her father is gravely ill, and she heard that the protagonist was acquainted with the best physician in all of China. She attempted to converse with him, but Estella repeatedly refused, so she asked the main character for assistance. However, he also refused to assist her. He flatly denies and informs her that he cannot assist her, leaving her speechless. Xiao Bin informs him that he cannot do it, even if he offers something in exchange. He is not like the others who purchase themselves with material goods. He goes outside and informs the director that he is free to arrest him, adding that he will not regret it. In reality, Xiao Bin is innocent. However, the rich guy offered the director a large sum of money to frame Xiao Bin, which favored him because he had previously abandoned his nephew in the hospital. Thus, both parties were victorious. Later, our protagonist is imprisoned, and several inmates enter his cell to disturb him. Unaware that this is no ordinary prisoner, he instantly reduces them to dust in the blink of an eye. He tells him that he was hired to break his leg and then requests permission from Xiao Bin. The fact that the idiot becomes angry in response to his laughter demonstrates his strength. Xiao Bin is surprised by how foolish he is, as he throws some extremely powerful and devastating blows. Nevertheless, Xiao Bin's kick forces him to surrender. He invites him to join him and promises to get him out in a few days, to which he agrees. Additionally, he threatens the guards to change his cell, and one of them complies. The director was speaking with his bodyguard, who informed him that he sent thugs to kill Xiao Bin as instructed, and that Xiao Bin is likely already on another existential plane. When they check the cameras and discover Xiao Bin, he feels like a king. He even requests a meeting with the director, which enrages him greatly. The next day, precisely at Xiao Xiao's residence, she calls Xiao Bin out of concern for his safety, but he assures her that he is completely safe. She tells him to stop playing because everyone is concerned, but he assures her not to fret. He will return in a few days, and you have the study materials and an important USB drive in your backpack, which she should view. Xiao Bin hangs up, and the girl is speechless as she opens the USB drive. On the other hand, our protagonist was scheduled to meet with the director, who was furious because things were not going according to plan. He walks into his office where Xiao Bin is waiting. The director instructs him to speak quickly as his time is extremely valuable. Xiao Bin begins to reveal all the corruption he has committed, from extortion to abandoning the case of a child who was raped a long time ago, solely for dirty money. The boss attempts to evade him, but it is futile since everything he is saying is true. He tries to offer Xiao Bin material things, but he refuses, so he tells him he can set him free. Xiao Bin responds that he will not leave without his new partner, but also informs him that he is incarcerated for a crime he did not commit, so he is free to leave at any time. When reinforcements from the central office discover the director treating Xiao Bin like a king because he did not want his corruptions to become public, the director's corruptions are exposed. Later, in the noodle restaurant, Xiao Bin's girlfriend is extremely irate because he had promised to wish her a good night, but she had not been informed for 2 days about the money. When she asks him this question in the restaurant, and then learns that he was arrested, she realizes that the blow the rich boy gave him had something to do with it. However, Xiao Bin suddenly materializes behind her and asks if she was concerned about him. She responds affirmatively, "But how do I hug my boyfriend?" He shouldn't conceal anything from her. The girls who worked in the restaurant were impressed by how quickly Xiao Bin was able to find a partner, but he pays them no mind and introduces the new employee, who is the stupid boy he rescued from prison and who is a good cook despite his stupidity. Xiao Bin describes how he ended up in prison. One night, he was calmly riding the bus when he realized that someone was being deducted for a robbery. However, this idiot helped him by destroying the business, which made it very easy for dangerous people to enter it for several years in prison. Fortunately, he met Xiao Bin, who helped him, and he is prepared to do anything for Xiao Bin. Later, they exposed the police chief's corruptions, resulting in his imprisonment and removal from office. The rich guy had no choice but to seek reinforcements, so he went to the heavenly temple to speak with a girl named Fairy Peony, who is Queen of Heaven. The rich guy could no longer deal with the main character, and to make matters worse, he lost a hand that belonged to the boss, leaving her as the only person who can. In spite of this, the fairy requests a substantial amount of money and property in exchange for half of his fortune. A moment of hesitation is followed by a conditional acceptance. He desires the death of Xiao Bin. In the restaurant where they were serving customers, they realized that Xiao Bin's efforts had resulted in the establishment's success exceeding expectations. So much so that the space is becoming too small, prompting them to consider renting the adjacent property. Later, they go to that location to rent it, but they beat him to it. The place was already vacated, and they had even begun decorating it. Who rented it? The main character inquires. Julia is the new owner of the property, as she and her husband have been searching for one for some time. However, Xiao Bin invites her to try his noodles, and she agrees to visit him later. The old doctor visits Xiao Bin and informs him that business is thriving, to which Xiao Bin responds, "Thank God I'm even considering expansion," before inviting the doctor to a ramen restaurant. Estella affirms that she accepts the offer, but only after confirming his health. They ascend to the second floor, where the old man begins to examine our protagonist. The wound he sustained 3 years ago appears to be resurfacing. The old man is about to return home in a few days, but he cannot leave without first examining our protagonist's wounds. He tells him that he had warned him 3 years ago that if he continues to fight every day in this manner, it is only a matter of time before his injury returns. Xiao Bin is not the type of individual whose demise is foretold by the Vila deaths. In the past, he would have contemplated it. Xiao Bin responds that his girlfriend is his answer to the old man's surprise at his change of heart. The old man congratulates him, and Xiao Bin tells him that he has no trouble attracting women because he is so handsome. One of the waitresses tells the girlfriend of the main character that he is on the second floor when she enters the restaurant and asks for him. She is on her way to visit the main character when she hears strange sounds emanating from the room. These sounds cause her to have negative thoughts. In reality, Xiao Bin was being treated medically by the old man, so he was interrupted to see what was happening, and he realized that the man was merely a physician. Xiao Bin introduces her as the individual he is discussing. The girlfriend of Xiao Bin immediately recognizes the old man who knows the best medicine in the entire nation and greets him, requesting that he cure his father's illness. This old man had previously rejected his sister when she told him about the situation, but he accepted her this time after he saw that the woman was Xiao Bin's girlfriend. The girl is overjoyed when he agrees to treat his father, and the old man departs to see himself later, to join his father. Xiao Bin's girlfriend informs her father that she finally succeeded in persuading the old man to check it out, and she takes advantage of the situation by asking him for a promise, which he accepts. Xiao Bin and the girl kiss, but Xiao Xiao, who was standing behind the girl, saw the entire kiss. The next day, at the city's #1 high school, Xiao Bin's girlfriend discovers that Xiao Xiao is sick, so she is a little envious of how Xiao Bin's girlfriend and Xiao Xiao are now together. Despite the fact that Xiao Bin's girlfriend also has a fever, he tends to her and advises her to take medication. All of her classmates fought so much over Xiao Bin's girlfriend and Xiao Xiao's girlfriend. The crush of Xiao Bin gets along well with Xiao Xiao, but she feels very uneasy knowing that Xiao Xiao is Xiao Bin's girlfriend and becomes slightly envious. After class, Xiao Xiao tells Xiao Bin that she will go for a walk, and if he wants to join her, Xiao Bin responds affirmatively, and they both go for a walk. Xiao Bin observes that the girl appears somewhat dejected, but is unsure of the cause. The girl warns him that if his friends learn that he is dating the most beautiful girl in school, he will become his enemy. Xiao Bin claims that he deserves it because he is so handsome. The girl compliments Xiao Bin, but he still refers to her as crazy, and tells her that he has not forgiven him for not protecting his sister. The main character becomes serious and tells him to avenge his sister's death at all costs, and to let him know if he receives any information. The girl sees the main character and believes him, but he suddenly embraces her when he realizes they are being persecuted. Xiao Bin determines that the girl is ill and carries her on his back. Xiao Bin was suddenly assaulted by 2 thugs who took advantage of the fact that he was being carried by another individual. Xiao Bin attempts to release the power of his injury as the battle commences, but is struck by a blade that injures his arm. Even though he was carrying the girl on his back, Xiao Bin was still highly skilled and flexible. One of them rises to attack him, but he counterattacks with an incredible maneuver, putting both of them out of the fight. Even the ceiling light from a sniper defending himself could be seen in his imagination. The sniper's partner protects and kills the sniper, who assures him that they will meet again soon. Since the girl's health was grave, he had to take her home immediately. The girl is already in her apartment, and Xiao Bin is mending his arm, despite the girl does not want Xiao Bin to leave because she wants to feel protected by him. So he gives her a big hug and assures her that everything will be okay. The same evening, Julia calls Xiao Bing and instructs him to come to her apartment immediately. He begins to imagine her with an insane image. But Julia says, "I realize it's impolite to invite you over so late, but this is an urgent matter." She wants to give the shop she just rented, but she needs a deposit of $100,000 immediately. So she asks him to bring the cash immediately. When Xiao Bing arrives at her apartment, he is shocked to see her wearing a nightgown, but the woman lets him in. Julia hands him the shop's transfer agreement and requests payment. Xiao Bing asks, "Are you in trouble?" However, her phone suddenly rings, and when she picks it up, she says, "I'll take you the money shortly, but do not touch my husband, please." So Xiao Bing believes he is correct that she is in trouble. Then, Julia informs him that her family has suffered a tragedy and she needs the money tonight. As she needs $100,000 immediately, she can offer him a discount or even sell him the store at a discounted price. She explains that her husband has lost a large sum of money at a casino 3 times this month, leaving her extremely stressed. Xiao Bing will lend her $100,000. If she fails to repay him on time, she can sell the store to him with $100,000 as his down payment. She expresses gratitude and promises to repay him later. Xiao Bing then says, "But I cannot give you the money yet." He worries and will accompany her as she brings the money. At a barbershop, Julia says, "Bring me to my husband. I'm his wife." A man then let them in this way. Julia's husband, who has already been beaten, is in that room. Julia gives the money to the thug and asks him to release her husband. After taking the money, the thug asks Julia to leave, but her husband needs to stay. Julia is furious, but the thug says, "Your husband is in trouble not only about money this time, but he also stole the clothes of our boss's wife while she's asleep." Julia apologizes on his behalf and wants to give them another $10,000. The thug says, "Our boss doesn't care about money." Xiao Bing interferes and insists to take him. The boss suddenly comes and says no. He requests Julia to stay for a night's romance with him. She must repay what her husband did. When the boss almost touches her, Xiao Bing hit his hand with powerful strength. Julia tries to stop Xiao Bing because this is not his business. The boss is furious and desires to murder Xiao Bing. He orders the thugs to kill him, but when he turns his back for a moment, they have all been defeated. The boss is shocked, and they are all ridiculed by Xiao Bing because they are too weak. Xiao Bing strangles the boss and says, "You taught me a lesson, now it's my turn to teach you mine." Lesson number 1, do not impose your rules on every person you encounter. As far as I'm concerned, you're not qualified to do that. Lesson number 2, don't do anything illegal. Even if you escape the government's punishment, you'll receive your karma one day. This gambling establishment is unnecessary. Let's call it the end. It turns out that the Queen of the North, Peony Fairy, is the real boss of this gambling house. She will kill Xiao Bing if he burns down it. But Xiao Bing has never heard of her, so he immediately sets fire to the house. Finally, he manages to save Julia and her husband. She thanks him and promises to pay back her debt in a year. While walking home, Julia's husband follows Xiao Bing to have a word with him. He says, "Do you like my wife? I know what you are thinking about. It's natural for a young and handsome man like you to like my beautiful wife. Give me 100,000, and in return, you can associate with my wife anytime you wish within 1 year. I'll turn a blind eye, don't mind my presence." Hearing this, Xiao Bing is furious and kicks the man. The man says, "You can come to my home anytime and I won't charge you a dime." Xiao Bing slaps
This one will work. So right now. Hmm. Take this and I want them to have the same size though. And I've cleaned them up and stuff like that. Could be like simple. Find these two to boring. Need some inspiration. Can I use? Side. Sign. Should sign. Sign. True. Hey, someone can try. So, ah, speak grid. like short type of afro. Make the face a bit chubby. It's weird as fuck. Yeah, that is weird. Right. So, could be Right, this one looks a bit better. A bit better. A bit. Not that much. Bit better. That's all. Ah, I forgot. I forget these things. I do not know. Just does. Yeah. uh, I hear, brother man, I hear. I was looking for the YouTube chat. On the other hand, get drag tail out here. I think that's why I wasn't hearing anything. That anybody saying anything. Because I ain't seeing anything. Isn't seeing it. Seeing it. Shit. Internet is only stay up good when you see it's drawing or doing. But if it's gaming, apparently it is shut off. Like a Pumi one. I'm actually streaming to Kick 2, which is here. Kick, YouTube, Trovo. Right, Trovo. You stream to 3 places at a time. At a time. That's what it is. Yes, I am. Huh. Should put this hand like down. Wait, I don't catch myself, I have that app. Why didn't I think of this? I have the app, but I wasn't thinking about it. Okay, let's go get that food before it spoil. Yep.
Slaps him and explains him, I kicked you for your wife. Your wife and I are clean. We only met today. I didn't unconditionally give her the money to save you. It's just a loan. She's been working very hard to support the family, while all you do is gamble all day long. Now you've even gone as far as shamelessly trading your wife for money. Do you even have the slightest bit of conscience? I slapped you for myself. I, Xiao Bing, am a man of integrity, so kill your dirty ideas. Your marital relationship is none of my business, and I don't want to know how could a beautiful wife like yours ended up marrying such a dirty loser as yourself. Now get lost. In the Palace of the North, Fairy Peony learns that Xiao Bing just burns the gambling house, and the boss asks her to teach Xiao Bing a lesson. But she doesn't want because she thinks that he did a good job by doing that. I like him. What a tender and protective gentleman. On the next day, Julia invites Xiao Bing over for a drink. When they meet, she tells her story that she was born into a poor family with a passed-away father and a sick mother. At that time, his husband's father agreed to lend her the money to treat her mother, but under one condition, which was I had to marry his son. She didn't have another choice, even though his husband had a terrible reputation in his village, but she had to marry him. At first, she worked for someone else as an apprentice in a hair salon, and then opened a small barbershop myself, before coming here to run her first restaurant. But as her career was setting off, her husband became different. In addition to drinking, he became addicted to gambling and play many girls behind her back, but she decided to turn a blind eye on that. Xiao Bing says, haven't you thought about getting a divorce? She knows him that he will never agree to divorce her because he can't marry a better woman now. She says, I'm his cash machine. After listening to her story, she expresses gratitude that he wishes to be her friend and listen to her. Then she gives him some tea, which he promptly spills on his clothes due to his nervousness. She assists in cleaning his clothes and initiates direct contact. She holds his hand and pushes him to the sofa. When she kisses him, Xiao Bing's phone suddenly rings. It's his girlfriend. He speaks to her while Julia still touches his body behind him. After that, Xiao Bing apologizes about earlier, but Julia simply says, I did that voluntary. Don't mind that. He then comes home when Xiao Xiao is waiting for him. She smells a scent of perfume on his body and is suspicious of him doing an insane thing with a woman. When he says he just met with Julia, Xiao Xiao is furious because he already has a girlfriend, and she kicks him out. The next day, Xiao Bing meets with his girlfriend, who requests that he accompany her for the entire day. During their walk, he observes Julia's husband, Zhang Gui, holding another girl. Xiao Bing encounters him and says, You already forgot what I said yesterday? After discovering that the man has a wife, the girl, Yingzi, becomes enraged and he runs away from there. It turns out the man goes to a blind man and asks for his money to the blind man. But the blind man says that his mission is not accomplished and he can't get the money now. Zhang Gui is furious, but the blind man knows that Zhang Gui is lying to him, and suddenly he kills the man. It turns out he is the bodyguard of the Peony Fairy. He contacts Peony Fairy and informs her that Zhang Gui has died after failing his mission to bring Yingzi here. Meanwhile, Xiao Bing calls Xiao Xiao and tells her that his army friend Bei will be her bodyguard now. She is shy to see the handsome man who will spend the day with her. It turns out that Xiao Bing follows Zhang Gui, and he is dying now. He apologizes for lying to him and says that Yingzi is in danger. When Xiao Bing inquires as to who did this and where Yingzi is located, he states that it is the blind man. Yingzi is at the barbershop, and he dies. Xiao Bing rushes to the barbershop and asks where Yingzi is. She is on the second floor and is dying now. In her thoughts, she considers Zhang Gui. When Yingzi was being harassed by gangs, Zhang Gui arrived to assist her. Despite the fact that he was beaten by them, Yingzi fell in love with him. When she opens her eyes, she believes she sees Zhang Gui, but it is actually Xiao Bing. He commands a girl to call an ambulance, but when Yingzi learns that Zhang Gui is dead, she cries and blames herself. While dying, she explains that Zhang Gui was actually a nice person, but he always rushes into danger for her. He asks, "What's your relationship with Zhang Gui?" And she replies, "When I was 18 years old, my father lost his gamble and sold me here at the price of 200,000. Zhang Gui was the only one who treated me nicely and wanted to bail me out. We planned to get married then. Zhang Gui was my man. Now that he died, I'll die with him." In the end, Yingzi decides to suicide. Xiaobing is furious and curious. If Zhang Gui was pretending to be Julia's husband, then Julia? There must be something wrong with her. Xiaobing rushes to Julia's apartment and she lets him in. Xiaobing asks, "Where is your husband?"
"Hello there."
But Julia doesn't want to talk about him. She makes tea for Xiaobing, but he doesn't want to drink it because he has experience in identifying poisons in the military. She is shocked when Xiaobing informs her that Zhang Gui has passed away. Xiaobing asks, "Who are you working for?" Julia will tell him if he drinks the tea, but he learns that it is poisonous, so he does not drink it. Julia starts to tease him and declares, "I have a crush on you, Xiaobing. Let's continue what we didn't finish last time." Xiaobing pushes her away and leaves the place. However, she suddenly drinks the poisonous tea, and he stops her immediately. She says that she will die anyway since her mission failed. She had better take her life herself. Xiaobing learns that this was just a trap since he entered her room and there's a camera. He bet her master is the one who's watching them right now and threatens to kill the one. And indeed, it is Peony Fairy who is watching them and is so enraged at Xiaobing that she also intends to kill him. Xiaobing wonders Julia why didn't she poison him the last time he came here. She replies that she tried to earn his trust. When Xiaobing discovers that her master is Peony Fairy, he is surprised that he has never offended her. It turns out that the rich guy, Zi Lun, who paid Peony Fairy to kill Xiaobing. When Julia dies due to the poison at that moment, Xiaobing is enraged. He leaves the location with the intention of killing Zi Lun and Peony Fairy. In the meantime, Bei informs Xiaobing that Xiao Xiao has been kidnapped by a car. But Bei already installed a tracker before, so he now follows the car. Xiaobing then rushes to the location, which is a villa. Bei calms him down and gives him an earbud to hear their conversations. It's the rich boy, Gu Cheng, who kidnaps Xiao Xiao. He believes that Xiaobing is already dead. Therefore, Gu Cheng wants his family and friends to suffer as well, as Xiaobing's death is insufficient to calm his rage. But his father, Zi Lun, stops him because he has not yet confirmed to Peony Fairy whether Xiaobing is dead or not. Hearing that, Xiaobing is furious and wants them to feel as if death is better than life. Bei tries to shut up the dogs, while Xiaobing jumps to their room and sneaks through the window. When Xiao Xiao wakes up, Gu Cheng commands 2 men to bang the girl. When the men almost bang her, Xiaobing suddenly kicks Gu Cheng and punches the men. Xiao Xiao finally feels secure, and Xiaobing ropes Gu Cheng and brings him to his car. Gu Cheng is then thrown into the street without clothing and publicly humiliated. Xiaobing says this is just the beginning. Meanwhile, the 2 men regain consciousness and wonder what happened to Gu Cheng. When they awaken Zi Lun, he is shocked to find his wife covered in blood. It turns out that it was the dogs' heads that caused her to faint as well. The next morning, breaking news spread over the whole city. According to the newspaper, Gu Cheng, the only son of the Zi family, performed behavior art at midnight by showing up without clothing at the busiest plaza. Mr. and Mrs. Z had a heart attack and were sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Their life or death remains unknown. In the North Palace, Peony Fairy informs the blind man that Xiaobing is not dead, but that all the men she sent to kill him ended up dead. Her client, Zi Lun, had a heart attack. He is unimportant, but they need to protect their reputation, so they will post a reward to smash Xiaobing's noodle restaurant. Meanwhile, Xiaobing and Xiao Xiao are on the way home when Xiao Xiao's mother tells him that a large group of gangsters surrounds their noodle shop. When they attempt to enter, Dumbhead, Xiaobing's friend, fights them all. He is also so powerful and manages to beat them up in a few seconds. When Xiao Bing comes, all of the thugs are already beaten up by Dumbhead, and Xiao Xiao's mother thanks him. Xiao Bing asks Bei to go to his noodle restaurant, and they discuss the queen in the north. Bei tells them that the queen in the north is Peony Fairy, and she lives in the North Palace. Xiao Bing asks Bei to handle and guard the noodle restaurant, while he and Dumbhead go to the North Palace to confront Peony Fairy with real power and smash her palace. 2 guard gates don't let them in when they arrive at the North Palace. Dumbhead says we are here to smash her palace. The guards think that he kneels to them, but he breaks the gate and knocks them. They then try to tear the palace down, but her secret weapon manages to hit him. Meanwhile, Peony Fairy and her bodyguards only watch Xiao Bing smashing her palace, and she is sure that he will die with the secret weapon she placed in that palace. The blind man provokes her to kill him immediately, but she is enraged and drives him away. Meanwhile, at Marquis's mansion, Peony Fairy's bodyguard comes to send an important report to Marquis from the North Palace. When Dumbhead realizes that no one shows up in that palace for a whole night, Xiao Bing intends to burn the palace. 2 men suddenly appear. They are the Marquis and his bodyguard. He tells Xiao Bing that as for the owner of the palace that Xiao Bing smashed, her name is Peony Fairy, and she works for Marquis. The 4 kings and queen appear to control the whole underworld of J City, but in fact, they are all working for Marquis. Although Marquis himself doesn't know martial arts, he's the ruler of the 4 most powerful kings and queen. Even the mayor of J City has to behave himself when speaking with him. It's said that the day of the J City belongs to local authorities, while the night is reigned by Marquis. Xiao Bing recalls his girlfriend's warning that Marquis is a dangerous individual. Xiao Bing is very excited to see the real boss in front of him and is ready to confront him. But Marquis says, "I know that you and Peony had some disputes, but as for me, there's nothing that can't be solved. How about finding a place to talk calmly?" Xiao Bing is shocked because Marquis is here to make peace. When they go to find a place to talk, Xiao Bing's phone rings. His girlfriend is angry because he disappeared again last night. He replies, "I'm sorry, baby. I was busy demolishing the North Palace last night, and now I'm going to have brunch with Marquis." She is shocked. "Marquis? The one behind the 4 kings and queen? How did you know him?" "I met him this morning at the North Palace." "Tell me where you're going to. I'd like to join you." At XX restaurant, his girlfriend is already there and greets them. She took a taxi, which is why she was so fast. In the restaurant, they meet with Peony and the blind man. Marquis lets them all take a seat and begins the conversation. He says, "It's better to get rid of an enemy than keep it alive. I found Xiao Bing congenial to me when I met him this morning. It's okay for young people to make mistakes as long as they don't make the same one again. I think Peony is a reasonable woman. Let me propose that we all put the enmity behind us if Xiao Bing is willing to apologize to Peony." "What do you think, Peony?" Peony agrees, but in her mind, she says, "You think that you'll get away with it now that you're apologizing to me? You smashed my North Palace. I'm doing this for the sake of Marquis. This is not over. Let's wait and see." Xiao Bing says, "How dare Marquis ask me to apologize?" He then spills the drink and says, "I toast this to Zhang Gui and Yingzi. Today, I want their souls to be comforted." Peony, his girlfriend, and Marquis are all taken aback. Xiao Bing continues to speak. "You and I can put our grudges behind by making a toast. But what about Zhang Gui and Yingzi's lives? Can their lives also be put behind by a simple toast?" She pretends not to know their names and what he is talking about. Xiao Bing is even more furious. "Of course you don't. You just give an order, and there will be numerous people dying and you don't even need to know their names. Zhang Gui and Yingzi used to be a poor couple, but they became scapegoats to pay for your sin with their lives. They and Julia, were you using them as tools, and you can just get rid of them after they served their purposes? Do you get any sense of human nature by doing such evil things? I guess you don't value your own life as well." Peony replies, "Are you making things worse with me just for some random people? I guess you want to get even for them, am I right?" Xiao Bing says, "Yes, till I'm dead." Marquis then stops them and says, "In that case, we have our conventions to settle disputes. I'll be the witness while you two take a fight. Whoever loses will apologize and do not set foot in J City ever again. What do you think? Xiao Bing replies, no problem, but we need to change the rule. I want a duel with the queen in the north. Whoever loses will lose the head as well. Do you dare agree? Suddenly his girlfriend disagrees, but Xiao Bing comforts her and convinces her that everything will be fine.
This part. Right. Ah, boy. What? Eh. No. Let's see. Let's see. Disrespect. See what's good.
What's up, guys? I'm here. You guys know how it goes. Another day, another video. Last night I tweeted I sleep. What recent news, topics, tweets, videos you want me to talk about tomorrow? Somebody on Twitter went viral for making one of the worst tweets I've ever seen, talking about funniest black YouTubers. There's another update to the Justin Mink situation, which, well, you just hate to see happen. Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, has returned for justice. Popular YouTuber Linus Tech Tips gets his entire channel hacked by the Bitcoin Tesla bot. And guys, believe it or not, the TikTok ban might actually happen, as the TikTok CEO is summoned for trial. All of that and more. So guys, hey, if you've been watching this channel for a while, okay, you see me on the recommended, or you just click anyway, you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor, just hit that button, okay? It helps me a lot. We're trying to reach some goals. Otherwise, you guys know the drill. Sit back, relax, put your feet up, and yeah, allow me to lay it on you. So guys, this is an absolutely huge update coming from the co-creator of Rick and Morty and some other shows as well, Justin Roiland. We talked about him and how basically he was getting, destroyed on the internet for some cases that came out, some information about potential domestic abuse. Alva TV said Justin Roiland's response to everything less than 18 hours ago. He tweeted and he said, Justin. In case you guys forgot, Justin was arrested and he was charged with felony domestic battery and false imprisonment in Orange County, California, in connection with an alleged incident in January 2020 involving an unnamed woman he was reportedly dating at the time. He said, I have always known that these claims were false, and I never had any doubt that this day would come. I'm thankful that this case has been dismissed, but at the same time, I'm still deeply shaken by the horrible lies that were reported about me during this process. Most of all, I'm disappointed that so many people were so quick to judge without knowing the facts, based solely on the word of an embedded ex trying to bypass due process and have me canceled. That it may have succeeded even partially is shameful. However, now that the legal case has ended, I am determined to move forward and focus on both my creative projects and restoring my good name. So even though the case got dismissed, it looks like a lot of people were still talking about Justin Roiland because there were the DMs that he was sending to minors, which I'm just not going to show in detail, but this person, the serve said, okay, and all the DMs, the teenage girls, in which some people are saying, hey, you can fake the DM. Like, don't you know it's 2023, we have AI and everything is fake now. So yeah, those can be fake as well, but there seems to be a lot of people coming out showing actual receipts. Tweet here says, I know you're rich enough to buy your way out of criminal charges. Just know, no amount of money can remove your creepy DMs to underage girls from the internet. People still believe that he has done enough wrong, or there's enough evidence or receipts out there to basically show that Justin Roiland is just skating by and just getting lucky because there wasn't enough evidence. Yeah, that's the situation. Let me know how you guys feel about Justin Roiland. Do you think that he should be fined and cleared? His name should be fine? Is he being hogpiled, or do you guys think there's enough evidence out there to show that he's still a really bad person? He's just getting away with the criminal system. So guys, we have to talk about this controversial tweet that went viral yesterday, and I think the day before as well. White Feathers, and a lot of you guys asked me to talk about it. It says, the disrespect towards Sylvanas, Caleb City, Corey X Kenshin, and Etika is insane. Also, she doubles down when called out. So there was a tweet that went viral as of March 22nd, so quite literally yesterday, which initially read, who was the funniest black YouTuber here? Choose one. Somebody made this on March 20th, and you have a whole bunch of black YouTubers and TikTokers. You got Trey Rags, you got Griffey, you've got Caleb Saley, you got Sylvanas, you've got Corey X Kenshin, you got King Bot, you got Kai, you got Speed, you got Daquan, you got all of these people here, right? And they're like, hey, choose one black person who's the funniest. Like, already, it's hard to compare like Kings of Kings and Ghosts to Goats, and I would argue that some of these people probably aren't even on the same tier, but I digress. I'm not going to answer the question here. The problem is the quote retweet here that you see by this person that reads, this genre of comedy is for people that find rape jokes funny. And it's got 11,000 likes and 3,000 quote retweets, and they're basically dragging this person on Twitter to the point where they have stopped people from being able to reply. So you can't compare Corey X Kenshin to King Bach. Okay, that's just blasphemy. You've got some people with humor like Caleb City that is just kind of universal and transcends everything, and then you've got people like my boy Long Beach Griffey, who is just basically offending everyone and saying some of the worst things possible, because that's the kind of humor he does. Everyone here does not fit within the same bucket. So for this person to put the entire group of 15 people and say that's the same genre of comedy was absolutely garbage take that everybody on the internet, on Twitter, got Big Baby Rage mad about, especially my boy Etika. Rest in peace. Don't ever come with that energy about my boy Etika. Keith in the comments saying I've read some dumb shit in my life, but goddamn, which is crazy because ironically Keith definitely should have been one of those 15 black guys up there. This person saying, not my cousins, y'all stay safe. And they got a picture of Corey X Kenshin and Burleezy being like, yo, do not Do not bring their faces into this type of conversation. That's blasphemous. Yeah, that's the viral tweet that made all black people fall into one freaking bucket of generalization, and that person got dragged on Twitter. Absolutely wild kind of things. It's like people will say anything on Twitter for clout. They'll say anything just for that attention. It's absolutely wild. So Magma Ice and a lot of you guys want to just talk about this really quick. Justin Minks, we've been talking about her and Cutie Cinderella and the situation that happened with the Streamer Wars last week, where Justin Minks basically showed up drunk and then got this whole entire party closed down, and everyone's big baby rage mad at her. She's kind of being blacklisted, Well, if you guys don't know, the update is she flew back home to go be with her family, and then she started streaming again, and then there were more issues that came about. One being here, saying that Minks freaking out on stream and getting into a heated argument with her and her family.
Cancelled. Will you stop being a fool? Don't be a fool, an aggressive fool.
We were having a great fun night.
Oh, no.
Why are you lying? This all happened. Why because of yours? Because your boyfriend is underage. What? Yeah. That's not true. Oh no. That's not true. You like fucking little man. That's not true. You don't like that? You don't like when I talk the truth? That's not true. You like fucking little men. That's not true.
Good God, man. I am familiar with toxic families, like in my past. I've kind of seen it all, but Jesus Christ, during the middle of the stream, and they were saying something about fucking little men, like, huh? And then if you look in the replies, it said, update, Minks is not the one being accused of the pedo stuff. Minks is the one accusing her sister of doing the pedo stuff. And then which Minks was like, Americans are so soft, and Nicholas DeOrio said you need to be checked in some kind of hospital, because the drama surrounding around Minks and her and her family and the toxicity and the drinking, it just keeps getting worse.
What I need to stop is when I go to a party, I need to know when to stop drinking. When I start drinking, I know that's borderline alcoholic. But
so Justin Minks has a drinking problem, and she's suggesting that when she goes to parties, she needs to learn how to stop drinking, which is the furthest from the truth in that situation. When you've done as many terrible things as Minks has done while under the influence of alcohol, your goal is not to learn when to stop drinking, it's to not drink at all, because alcoholics cannot control their actual alcohol consumption. She's beyond that point, and the fact that she's still trying to drink, just to justify, like, I'm still going to drink, just not going to drink at all, after she promised Cutie Cinderella that she would not drink at all in the future, just kind of shows just how far gone she is. Like, until she reaches the point where she realizes, hey, I need to stop drinking, well, it seems like she's just going to keep being a menace to, like, the people on the stream. She'll keep getting banned. She'll keep breaking friendships. I don't know. I don't hate Justin Minks or anything like that, but it's kind of also weird to see, like, this situation with Justin Minks where her drinking problems is, like, the forefront of the internet. It's like you actually see her friends trying to have an intervention about her drinking problems. You can see her friends breaking up friendships with her because of her drinking problem. You can see her family and them fighting. I don't know if that has anything to do with the drinking problem. Maybe she started drinking because she has a family like that. Who knows? But yeah, it's just kind of weird to have all of these vices from this woman being pushed out to the forefront of the news. I mean, I guess I'm talking about it because you guys asked about it, but also she's consistently talking about it with her audience as well. And it just feels very, I don't know what to say, but I do hope that she gets help. I do hope that maybe she goes to rehab or something, because you hate to see someone, especially as a creator that you might like or appreciate, keep suffering from all of these drinking problems. So yeah, that's just to make. Let me know how you guys feel about the situation in the comments below. So guys, we have some breaking freaking news. We talked about Linus Tech Tips in the last video where basically he almost canceled himself. Well, looks like someone has officially accomplished doing so. Freshmore said, no freaking way. Linus Tech Tips just got hacked a minute ago. A Tesla stream appeared in my recommendations. I don't follow Tesla. And now they're deleting all his videos and streams. Bro, if Linus's channel is hacked, no one is safe. So you guys don't know, Linus Tech Tips, one of the most popular technology type YouTubers that talks about like computers and RAM and all that jazz. His channel, I think over being like 16-20 million subscribers, got hacked by the freaking Tesla bots. And also his side channels got murked as well. If you try to go to this man's page right now, this is what you will see. This page isn't available. Sorry about that. Try searching for something else. The YouTube channel got absolutely deleted because of this entire entire situation. That's crazy. Again, like that person was saying, if Linus Tech Tips ain't safe, if Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel can get hacked, then nobody is freaking safe. That is wild. And the crazy thing about these hacks here, it's always like Elon Musk or ChatGPT, some AI thing, is Bitcoin back. The weird thing that I find about all these hacks, it's always the same freaking one. It's always quite literally the same video of the same Elon Musk talking about the same thing about Bitcoin. And I'm trying to understand, do these scams actually work? Now that he's hacked a channel that has over millions and millions of subscribers, is there somebody literally on the face of the planet who comes in like, oh, Linus Tech Tips is working with Elon Musk. Oh, Bitcoin. Oh, I should do whatever it is that's being said in this video. Like, that's what I'm trying to understand, because like at this point, I feel like it's become such a meme and it's become so knowledgeable that it's occurring. I can't understand if this is actually something that's effective. It feels like it's making cryptocurrency look worse every time you see something pop up. So I'm wondering why people continue to just do this when it's very, very, very obviously a scam, unless I'm missing something and these people are making bank by hacking these channels, because they haven't stopped. So, and who's doing it? It seems to be like the same person. The same one person seems to be hacking every channel on YouTube, because it's always the exact same thing. Who is behind this? Who's the culprit? So guys, we have an update on the TikTok ban. If you guys don't know, the United States is trying to get rid of TikTok. So much, in fact, the actual CEO of TikTok has made an actual video talking about why you should not ban TikTok. Hey, Bob Craven tweeted this, but I've already told you guys a little bit about this, but in case you missed it, TikTok CEO shares the video warning users about the looming ban. Quote, some politicians have started talking about banning TikTok. Now this could take away from all 150 million of you. At least half the population in the United States apparently has TikTok, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Indy just got here, so we're going to watch this with Indy.
Hi everyone, it's Shou here. I'm the CEO of TikTok. I'm here in Washington DC today, and I have some news and updates to share with everyone here. Today, I'm super excited to announce that more than 150 million Americans are on TikTok. That's almost half of the US coming to TikTok to connect, to create, to share, to learn, or just to have some fun. This includes 5 million businesses that use TikTok to reach their customers, and the majority of these are small and medium businesses. Now these numbers are amazing, and I'm so thankful to all of you and the 7,000 TikTok employees in the US who are helping us build this incredible community in America and around the world. Now this comes at a pivotal moment for us. Some politicians have started talking about banning TikTok. Now this could take TikTok away from all 150 million of you. I'll be testifying before Congress later this week to share all that we're doing to protect Americans using the app and deliver on our mission to inspire creativity and to bring joy. Let me know in the comments what you want your elected representatives to know about what you love about TikTok.
So yeah, actual CEO of TikTok making a case and saying, hey guys, they about to take away your TikToks. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time we're about to be put on trial. If you guys don't know, the reason why they're trying to take away the TikToks is because the government believes that TikTok is a Chinese app that might be used as spyware to spy on to millions and millions of Americans. Hence why they've already made a global TikTok ban on any kind of government devices, so that if this is the case with TikTok, there's no way that they can infiltrate some of the government secrets. But also looks like they're trying to go a step further and maybe bring it to a freaking United States ban altogether, which would be absolutely monumental.
ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder, and 20% owned by employees around the world. ByteDance has 5 board members. 3 of them are American. Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China. We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns. We have addressed them with real action. Now, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, building what amounts to a firewall that seals off protected U.S. user data from unauthorized foreign access.
All right, so the CEO of TikTok essentially saying, look, we're building a freaking wall so that all data from the United States, Americans, and everything cannot be tapped into from an outside source. And I think a lot of people, a lot of Americans are saying, cap. They're saying like, look, I get it. You're saying it is all American based. This is all American, you know, it's on American turf. But people are saying like at the end of the day, it's a Chinese app, and that there are Chinese board members as well on top of the app, and that if China wants to tap into this information, regardless of this firewall, then they can, is what some people are arguing. Now, look, I get it. I like TikTok as much as any other person, usually not as much as any other people, but to be frank, I wouldn't take the gamble. I just would not take the gamble at all. If there is even a sliver of chance that he could be lying, or that China could just go ahead and tap and access all of the information that they're getting from millions and millions of Americans, including people who are in the government as well, I'm just not taking the chance, okay? Because we already know that China is infamous for having that kind of, you know, control over their apps, especially within their own country, and monitoring, okay? So if they're the masters of monitoring data from their own country, and now they have an app that's in another country, I can see them, I don't know, man. I just... There's no way. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I feel like if there was one to believe, this would be the one that would be the one to believe in. This would be it. All right, guys, that's all I have for today's video. If you made it to the end, do me a favor. Again, subscribe if you guys haven't already. All right, drop a like. Just lets me know that you made it to the end of the video. I made a decent video, and I'll catch you guys later, okay? I'm probably getting out some one-offs sometime this week, okay?
It is what it is. Even if that's what they're doing, it is what it is. Yeah. See, they ain't doing nothing illegal. That's all that matters. Deals. Thinking.
Chapter 0 Prologue. The story begins in Korea in the company of Alog. The global company Alog Korea has chosen the most real online deputies for its revolutionary work. It finally released a beta test of a new game. Several dozen of the best designers from all over the world have been working on the development of this version for a huge amount of time. People in special suits lie down in capsules, and the game begins. This simulation is very similar to reality that it is difficult to distinguish them. The game has begun. Entering the main game, the hero got into the midst of a battle, where a column of warriors attacked the fortress. There was a fierce battle. 100 arrows flew into the circle. There was a ringing and grinding of metal everywhere. People were screaming. The capture of the fortress took place rapidly. The main character stood in the middle of the battlefield in complete amazement. He didn't last long before one of the arrows pierced his body. He felt hellish pain. The guy in the capsule and his game were watched by two men who recorded the time of the game. It was 6 minutes, 1 second and 33 milliseconds. Mastering the main character inside the simulation was 100% complete, so he was in mortal pain. One of the men said not to relax and let the guy feel the whole hellish simulation. It was clear from his face that this psycho was getting high from everything that was happening. He is back in the game. Some adult man came up to him and grabbed him by his clothes and started asking how long he has been here and why he does not give orders. The young man was scared and in tears shouted about being allowed to log out of their system because he didn't want to be there anymore. But all his attempts were pointless. The man said things that were not clear to the main character. He could not understand why he was perceived as the son of a general. In the next moment, the game seemed to restart, opened a new branch of the development of events. And here again, the battle is in full swing. There was
come on.
destruction everywhere. There was almost no trace of the former huge and mighty fortress. It seemed to crumble before our eyes. At that moment, he saw the same man again. The warrior looked furiously at the guy, again followed by an incomprehensible dialogue for the general and revenge. And now he is already rapidly moving to meet the main character, demolishing everything in his path. Having met face to face with the general's son and with an evil smile, the warrior said that he finally saw this day. The main character did not understand what the man meant and suddenly experienced unbearable pain again. This was the beginning of endless cycles of rebirth. After some time, the program counted 31 restarts. The guy didn't want to give up. He realized that the only thing he could do was fight to the end to survive. To fight, despite the unbearable pain with each defeat. Fight even if you no longer have the strength and want to give up. Once again, the guy was reborn. A girl was standing next to him. She kept him at a distance trying to protect him. She told him that if he fought, he would be able to experience unbearable pain. Again and again with every defeat incomparable to anything he had ever felt, and asked if the guy wanted to continue fighting. Li Yuxin has long decided to fight to the end for himself, so after looking at the girl and taking out his sword, he said that no matter how many times he fought, he would fight no matter what until he finished this battle. Even death cannot control these endless rebirths. The battle of men has begun right now. First chapter, the winter holidays began. The students ran out of the educational institution joyfully. The kids were fooling around. It was immediately clear from them that they were glad to finish their studies even for a short period of time. Li Yuxin was very sad and did not understand why everyone was so cheerful. He walked in a completely saddened state. In any case, he had to go to the academy tomorrow instead of school. Since he was taking the exam next year, the questions at the academy should be more difficult than before. For a guy starting life in this world, it seemed very boring. The main character was called by an unknown number. He picked up the phone and asked who it was. It turned out to be a delivery guy who asked if the guy was at home, because he had to receive his parcel in person. The guy did not remember at all what he ordered, because he had been studying all these days, after which he told the deliverman that he was already returning home, asking him to wait. Li Yuxin reached his house, near which a delivery man was standing, holding a box with a flower logo in his hands. The man saw that the guy was a student and asked for his documents, but the guy, seeing this box, immediately rushed to the deliverer, quickly snatching it. The man was not happy with the guy's quick movements, because he did not even greet him. His son, also seeing such a logo, behaved the same way, not noticing anything around. The main character quickly entered the house and ran to his room, taking a stationary knife, and began to extract the contents from the box. It turned out to be a virtual reality outfit consisting of a helmet and wrist straps. Without thinking twice, he read the instructions and began to put on his equipment. The rules stated that after pressing the power button on the right wrist, you must follow the instructions on the equipment. The guy pressed the button and the analysis of the user's biological signals began. And then the words of congratulations sounded, because the guy became an important online tester. The girl suddenly appeared in front of him, which scared Yuxin very much. The girl said that if a guy is surprised by this in virtual reality, then she is very disappointed. She snapped her fingers, changing the location to the surface of the moon, then to the ocean shore with palm trees, and said that she presented him with an unforgettable game log, after which she threw him an invitation. The guy opened it and a hologram of the city unfolded in front of him. After some time, the guy was sitting at the table with his parents and shared his impressions with them, saying that he had become a private tester of a new game from an amazing company after going through a competition. He told his parents that he would be doing this for 15 days and 14 nights during his winter holidays, and he would also be paid for working hours. His father was not happy with the news he received. He told his son that he was a high school student who attended a marine training camp, and eventually got a job as a tester of some game. He repeatedly told his son about the importance of studying and he needed to push up. Li Yuxin got angry and got up from the table, saying that he understood everything and if he couldn't, he wouldn't. This action made his father even more dissatisfied. He told him to sit back at the table, because he had not finished. At his age, he knew how important it was to eat. The young man's mother grabbed his father by the collar and told him to calm down, because the guy had already said that he would not go anywhere. Yuxin went to his room and thought that he would not miss this opportunity anyway. Even if his parents were against it, he had a plan. It was the first day of testing. The guy decided to go to the academy, and then while riding the subway, he called his teacher and said that he was going to leave with his parents for 15 days and 14 nights. When the teacher asked where they were going, the guy looked around in confusion and noticed a sign that depicted Quebec in Canada. It was this place that he named to his teacher, who was very surprised, because this place was even colder than theirs. The issue with the academy has been resolved. After this action, he knew that his parents would call the academy sooner or later, but decided that these were problems of the future, and now something else is more important. Second chapter. Once inside, Li Yuxin was speechless for a split second. He looked around in amazement. In his bag was a book of the National Federation of LCNZ. In the lobby of the building, he was met by a serious-looking guy. He approached the main character and tried to address him, to which he stopped him in mid-sentence with one gesture. Li Yuxin showed the guard a bracelet signifying an invitation from the virtual kingdom. A smug smile appeared on the main character's face, and his gaze exuded confidence. Li Yuxin put the bracelet to the scanner. A blue circle and the inscription VIP lit up on the scoreboard. Dozens of signs appeared above his head, and hundreds of other players appeared in the empty hall. After passing behind the turnstile, he was confused. Everything around him was new and completely alien. Costumes, weapons, various appearances, all this riveted his gaze. Li Yuxin looked at everyone with admiration. Suddenly, he noticed a blurry silhouette in the crowd, but in it he immediately saw a terrible-looking creature with a battle axe in his hand. In the next moment, the silhouette began to dissolve into space, as if the surrounding people did not notice it. Li Yuxin stood in confusion wondering what it was. Not having time to move away from the shock, he appeared right in front of the main character in full height, the same bitter enemy who had been chasing him for so long. Li Yuxin looks at him in horror. He can't really utter a word. A sharp swing, a blow, and Li Yuxin flies off to the side experiencing extreme pain. The guy is confused and terrified. He does not understand what it is and what is happening. Running away from the pursuer, he begins to beg not to chase him. Li Yuxin realized that persuasion could not help. He was running to the only place possible for salvation. A small house looks like houses of the 19th century. Not having time to get inside, they overtake him. Li Yuxin fell to the ground. He begged to stop, cried and felt his helplessness with his whole body at the moment. The blade was already hanging right over the head of the main character, as at that moment she appeared, the same stranger who informed him that he was the one who was awarded to become an important tester of the game. She stopped the enemy by her appearance alone, reassuring the main character that the danger is negligible because the enemy of the entire first level. She struck at him. The blow was elegant and perfectly honed. Li Yuxin was amazed by this skill. Delighted with what had happened, he immediately asked if she was an operator. The girl was smiling sweetly, looking at the main character. At this moment Li Yuxin was surprised again, because such a noticeable detail as the voice just now caused him such bewilderment. He was clearly not her. Then she bent down to him and asked through a smile, teasing what was wrong with him. Without waiting for an answer, the girl's appearance began to disappear, crumbling into pixels like a broken matrix. In front of the main character was not a nice girl, but a very familiar man. The man broke into a satisfied smile. He clearly enjoyed everything that was happening. Apologizing, he turned off the simulation on the bracelet. He understood that this clearly needed to be stopped, but the prolonged jokes brought the hero to a too funny reaction immediately from the moment he logged in. While Li Yuxin was recovering from such jokes, the surrounding people did not stop laughing. They were clearly amused by everything that was happening. Li Yuxin sat and plunged into the most horn-like range of emotions, from shame to admiration. He was amused by everything that was happening. Excitement was burning in his eyes. From all thoughts, the main character was distracted by a man. He introduced himself as Li Hunjiao, the chief test manager, and immediately reprimanded Li Yuxin for being late, to which the main character, being embarrassed, immediately apologized. It immediately flashed through Li Yuxin's mind that all apologies don't make sense. He managed to be late for such a serious organization on the first day, and then he froze in horror, because for this he could have been removed from the duties of a tester. He didn't want to think about it. Well, the horror had already shackled him. The chief testing manager again distracted him from his gloomy thoughts, hearing that his tardiness did not matter and it was immediately possible to start the demonstration. Li Yuxin breathed a sigh of relief. This way, Li Hongjiao said, approaching a lonely elevator in the middle of the hall. Due to the lateness of the main character, they are forced to immediately start testing by skipping the part with the tour. Li Yuxin was not too upset by everything that was happening. He agreed to any conditions, still feeling a little guilty for the first mistake. They entered the elevator and went to the testing room. While the main character and Li Hongjiao were having a nice conversation in the elevator, a solid man in a tuxedo was watching them. He was having a strange conversation on the phone saying that he was clearly confident and could completely trust the client. The man turned out to be the director of the Bernadotte branch. After finishing the phone conversation on the note that the person on the other side can look, he disconnected the phone. The director lit a cigar. He looked at Li Yuxin through a hidden camera. There was a correct phrase in his speeches. Any product sold at such a high price must be qualitatively executed. Without continuing to follow the guests, he turned off the TV. After climbing to the right floor, Li Hongjiao casually apologized to the guy. Li Yuxin did not betray much meaning to the words. He was busy studying everything in a circle. He was amazed at the scale of everything that was happening. The walls of the room looked like the corridors of intergalactic shuttles in their interior. Approaching the first door in front of them was an unreal scale screen. It displayed all sorts of schedules of the protection system. Li Yuxin watched in amazement how deftly Li Hongjiao handled this system. Putting his hand to the scan, the first door opened. In the director's office, the monologue continued, lighting a cigar. He repeated as the very conviction that it was just business. Li Yuxin and the chief test manager have passed on. The last stage. The electronic voice of 12 is open is heard and the door opens. The main character, who had not left all this time from shock, stood in amazement. He could not believe his eyes. There was a vast expanse of a hall with many levels in front of him. In the center was the main installation with capsules. Li Yuxin didn't have time to really say anything, as he was interrupted by Li Hongjiao, asking him to put on a specially tailored suit first. The main character stood and looked at the suit with a sinking heart. He no longer listened particularly to the request of the chief tester to wait in the main hall as he changed clothes, because he needed to check the equipment. Li Yuxin took off all his clothes in an instant, casually throwing them on the floor and rushed to pull on a suit. Just a few minutes and he's already in a suit. Li Yuxin couldn't get enough of how cool he looks right now. He was fooling around like a little kid, all overflowing with joy. Elated, he ran to the main hall. The door opened and he was blinded by a bright flash of light. For a few seconds he lost his orientation in space. The bright glow passed, and he saw a girl of unprecedented beauty in front of him. Having fallen into a daze for a split second, he began to admire after. Li Yuxin couldn't believe that such a beautiful creature was a real person, so he immediately praised Li Hongjiao for the new magnificent computer simulation. The girl stood at a loss and did not understand anything. Li Yuxin came so close to her that he could hear the subtle, gentle smell of shampoo. The whole awkward scene was stopped by the chief tester. Through his laughter, he noted that the smell was caused only by the fact that Miss Maria had washed her hair. Li Yuxin's face was transformed. Panic was read in his facial expressions. He was confused and confused, saying just oh. He immediately received a storm of anger from such a nice lady. She made it clear that if he did not change such a stupid grimace on his face this hour, then she would have to tear off his nose for persuasiveness. The main character flew away from her in horror like a true coward. Accidentally flying into the capsule, he clumsily falls inside along the way, clacking everything that is possible and everything that is impossible. Then suddenly the system is triggered and the capsule closes. The data is analyzed, the user is confirmed, and the revival takes place. Li Yuxin is very scared and does not understand at all what he should do now. Miss Maria angrily shouts to the chief tester that something is wrong here. She emotionally calls Li Yuxin. The guy, offended, does not understand why he is not smart. Li Hongjiao explains to Maria that they are forced to combine online reality and simulation servers because of the problems that have arisen. As if trying to reduce the degree of heat, he apologizes to her for this. Maria Nim can't come to terms with everything that is happening. She can't believe that this uncouth will also be a user. Li Yuxin, still sitting in the capsule, can't understand why she disliked him so much and why she continues to insult him. Miss Maria continues to send outrages and threats, and the reason is weighty, because if the authorities find out that civilians were involved in training in the simulation, There will be irreparable consequences. She is interrupted by Lee Hoon-jae. He reminded her for the last case and for the fact that if you do not combine online reality now, then the simulation will start working incorrectly. Lee Yu-shin couldn't sit idle at that time. He didn't understand why the chief tester was saying incomprehensible things, and couldn't just start. He frantically pressed the screen inside the capsule, trying to find the training. The main character turned on the tab of combining reality and online in the menu. He did not really understand what he was pressing. In his head there were only thoughts of indignation about the lack of at least the simplest training on the main screen. The dispute between the girl and the main tester did not fade away. Maria did not want to enter the simulation together with the newcomer. Then Lee Hong-jae broke down for the first time and in a rude tone ordered her to take a place in the simulation. It was obvious from Maria's look that she was filled with hatred and disgust. Every cell of her body did not want to get involved in all this. Lee Yu-shin was sitting in a slight shock from everything he saw. He was clearly already oversaturated with impressions for today. And this is just the beginning. Lee Hoon-jae changed his tone abruptly and again said so cordially that if Maria so wishes, then it can all be cancelled. A brutal grin appeared on Maria Nim's face, clenching her teeth and overflowing with anger. She began to prepare for immersion in the simulation. The girl continued to pour out threats. She didn't even think about leaving the whole thing like that. The chief tester, in his usual sarcastic manner, thanked the girl for her courage. There was a satisfied grin on his face. He knew that he got away with everything. Maria Nim, with gestures and with all her appearance, showed dislike for Lee Hong-jae's act. Maria got into the capsule. Lee Hoon-jae gave a parting word, explained that the control would become clear as the game progressed. Then he asked the main character to get ready too. Lee Yu-shin put on his helmet in confusion. It was obvious that he was scared. The unknown was terrifying. A command was given to start the server. A huge number of operators got to work. The whole mechanism started working again like a well-oiled clock. The capsules were closed. The process was started. A number of necessary operations followed. The installation began to emit a huge amount of heat. It was due to the energy that was generated during the exchange between the program and the body. The operators gave reports. The load finally reached 100%. Lee Hoon-jae looked like a mad scientist at that moment. His impulsive gestures and facial expressions showed passion for his work. He gave the command to start. The reverse report went. Maria and Lee Yu-shin were already in a semi-trance, completely ready to immerse themselves in the simulation. The space in the circle began to tremble. Lee Hoon-jae, who was controlling the whole process, was smiling. Everything went as planned, finally, until neither Maria nor Lee Yu-shin managed to lose consciousness after falling into the simulation. The chief tester wished them good luck, even more correctly, a successful adventure. Third chapter. The simulation reality was launched by Maria and Yu-shin immersed themselves in virtual reality. The guy felt a strange but familiar feeling when he opened his eyes and saw heavy rain. The downpour was very cold, even though the guy was actually in the capsule. He felt this cold all over his body. Looking at himself, he discovered that he was wearing armor with a cloak. One of the soldiers shouted from the tower that the enemy troops had reached the plains. The guy was shocked by what he heard, afraid of enemies, because he thought he was in training. An adult man approached him, saying that if they just wait, it could lead to casualties, and also asked him to give orders sooner. Yu-shin realized his role in this game and realized that this is not an ordinary armor, but a commander character. He looked into the distance and did not see the plains that were claimed there. He saw only the sea around the castle. But as it turned out later, it was not water, but a huge army of the enemy, which in an instant rushed to attack the fortress. Yu-shin began to panic, and the man said that there was no time for this and it was urgent to give orders and lead his army. The guy was just scared to death and started looking for a console or an interface window in confusion. Meanwhile, the enemies were already on the line of attack. The man continued to shout at the guy, and he thought that he still had no training and did not know what to do. The man soon decided that there was no point in shouting at the guy. He could not just stand and let the enemy attack first, so he independently ordered the army to go into battle, and the archers to prepare for shooting, telling them to fight until the last breath. A fierce battle began. Archers' arrows flew rapidly into the enemy's army, killing everyone they hit. But the enemy did not stand without action, also starting the shooting, and climbed the stairs to the castle walls. Yu-shin's army defended themselves with shields and threw huge boulders at those who tried to climb the fortress, for no reason, not letting them enter, trying to stop them. The guy just stood and watched what was happening. The guy thought that it was all insanely similar to reality. Fourth chapter. One of the enemy's archers aimed his arrow at Yu-shin. The guy ran his hand over his chest and found blood. Frightened, he did not understand why he felt hellish pain, because he was in a simple game. He couldn't even figure out if this insane pain he was experiencing was real. The man, seeing that the guy was hit, ordered the army to protect the general. The warriors ran up to him and began to shield him with their shields from the arrows that were flying in huge numbers in his direction. Yu Xin thought that this whole situation was a system error because he couldn't even find the console, thinking that he was stuck in this place. Suddenly, a red-haired guy appeared, looked at what the army was doing, said that the enemy archers had already stopped firing. They did not have to protect the general, and ordered them to go to their places. The warriors left Yu Xin, following orders. The guy was on his knees, covering his head with his hands. The man approached the guy and grabbed him by the clothes and lifted him off the ground, asking how long he would continue to behave like this and why he did not give orders. Yu Xin tearfully asked to be allowed to log out of the system. He did not like this game and he did not want to be in it anymore. The man continued to hold the guy angrily and asked what nonsense he was talking about. On the side of the enemy was Blackwin, who was several times larger than everyone in this battle. He looked into the distance, saying how boring it is to think about the old friendship with Li Yuxin's father, and headed towards him. He began to swing his axe and thereby created a huge gust of wind that demolished everything in its path. Then he threw an axe into the fortress, which crashed into the wall, killing several soldiers. The monster climbed the fortress and took his axe, immediately went to the guy. Yu Xin looked at the man and thought that he had already seen this silhouette before, and then remembered that this was the same man he had seen when he first entered the game development building. The army was scared and began to run away, but the man ordered everyone to stay in place, because if they retreat, they will immediately die. Blackwin was just huge. He swung his axe, killing everyone in his path. He stood in front of the guy, saying that the guy could not hide from him behind the heads of corpses, and also told that he was stronger than his father, remembering how he burned him and it was disgusting. Yu Xin, sitting on the ground, looked at this monster, covered his face with his hands and wondered if the game would end if he died like this. 5th chapter. Blackwin asked the guy why he didn't take his sword and stand up. Yu Xin opened his eyes and was surprised that he did not die. Looking in front of him, he found a sword stuck in the ground. The monster said that if he kills a child who does not even have a weapon in his hands, he will be disgraced, so if the guy dies, he must die as if he inherited his father's blood. The guy got up from the ground and grabbed his sword, angry at the words he heard. Having joined the role, said that he knew nothing about his father to say such things, and if he was a villain in this game, he should just kill him without saying anything superfluous, especially about his father, because what is he at all he may know about it. Yu Xin didn't understand where he got such an irresistible outburst of anger, because it was not the first time he was scared here. Moreover, the man in front of him had destroyed their camp with several attacks. He was clearly a monster, and since he wanted to fight so much, he had no choice but to fight. A guy with great faith in himself decided to repel the monster's attack. Swinging his sword, he just dropped it, because the sword turned out to be unexpectedly heavy and slipped out of his hands. Yu Xin was just terrified and very confused. The monster called him a simple clown and struck the decisive blow. The guy woke up in a capsule. Li Hunjiao said that it was already the end. The recorded game time was 6 minutes, 1 second and 33 milliseconds. The degree of loading of the subject was 100%. The guy was in insane pain. Hong Jiao said that in this scenario, becoming a passive person would be enough for today, and told him to get ready to upload and record videos for a report to the branch director, as well as not to relax and let the players feel what real stimulation called hell is. Li Yuxin returned home. The parents were sitting at the table and asked why she was sitting with them. Mom cooked his favorite meat with soybeans and hoped that his son would not go to the academy without trying. The father said that his son had gone crazy because he had been playing all night again, but his mother told him not to find fault with him right before eating. The guy did not understand whether he really returned to reality. He looked at the chair he always sits on, sniffed the food that was on the table, thinking about how he missed this smell, and it was definitely Mom's stew with beans. So he really returned to his normal life, but he was still not sure. He sat down at the table, took a spoon, scooped food into it, when suddenly a drop of water fell from the ceiling directly into the spoon. The guy tensed up. Suddenly, a lot of water poured down from above, like rain. The parents raised their heads, not understanding what was happening, because the water was pouring right from above. Yu Xin looked at the ceiling, which was replaced by a dark sky, from which rain was pouring. My parents weren't around. The guy was back, and he thought it was an illusion or a dream. But as it turned out, he was still in the game. The main character hopelessly fell to the ground and thought only that he wanted to return home for real. He was tired of all this hell. Arrows flew at him from above, when suddenly one of the warriors appeared, who beat off all the flying arrows. One of the arrows flew straight into his helmet. The warrior took off his helmet. It turned out to be a long-haired girl. 6th chapter. Li Yuxin looked at the girl and did not understand where she came from. She looked like his age. The girl looked at the guy mysteriously, as if she wanted to say something. He thought that that monster might come to him again and started shouting to the CEO to stop this game immediately. The man told Yuxin to calm down and give orders, because this way he only creates unrest among the soldiers. Although the guy was the son of a great man, so he had to defeat Blackwen. The guy started shouting that it was all complete nonsense and ordinary high school students alone could not cope with this monster. Because he was not even their general, he just wanted to get out of this bad game. The girl came up to him and put her hand on his shoulder, said that the guy was mistaken, considering it was all a game. Because in fact it was not a game but reality, and in order to survive, they have to fight. The branch manager and CEO Li Hongjiu were sitting at the same table. The manager cut off a piece of steak on a plate and put it in his mouth, telling the man that their return to New York was only a matter of time. And all thanks to him. Hongjiu was flattered by the words he heard. The head continued to say that there was only one thing left. This is Maria, a cheeky noble maiden. The director replied that they are currently waiting for the girl to fall asleep. The stimulation will end as soon as Li Yuxin loses his will to live. The man wondered what would happen if Maria woke up, whether it was possible to control these people at the same time. To which Hongjiu said that if the simulator malfunctioned, it was quite possible, but they should not allow such a small probability to happen and spoil the finale. Yuxin started calling the CEO again. Being sure that he could hear him, he knew that he was watching them, and since he could not be pulled out of this game, he asked at least to improve his swordsmanship or basic characteristics. Hongjiu was sure that the probability that the branch manager was worried about was 0. Blackwen was immortal, and even if his DNA chain disintegrated, the fact that he was a disaster would not change. After that, the manager, satisfied with the answer he received, stopped worrying and offered to finish their meal. 7 times I have faced death countless times. For the first time, fear seized him and he vomited. He begged for his life, being in complete despair. He did terrible things that looked very stupid and cowardly on his part. He was constantly trying to cope with the monster. But despite this, he could not even escape from this lion, so all the rebirth he still died, losing count for the umpteenth time. Every time Blackwen mentioned his father, saying that he was not like a guy. Yuxin remembered the girl's words about how to survive. You need to fight, and also that this is the real world. But he still didn't believe it was real. Going out with friends after school was his reality, and having dinner at the same table with his family. But here everything was completely different. Yuxin once again rushed into battle with Blackwen, but fell again. The monster told him that during the conversation about his father, the guy was much hot-tempered than during the fight. The main character realized that he was no longer afraid of the monster. He doesn't care how many times he gouges out his eyes or tears his body apart. He won't run away from him. After all, after so many resurrections, he was sure that he could kill him. This is the only thing left in him. From the moment he began to resurrect endlessly, the monster immediately crushed the young man with his axe. The guy was resurrected again. It was the 31st session. He knew that in order to survive here, there was only one way out, and that was to fight back, putting his life on the line. The girl told the young man that he would not be able to match Blackwen, even if he fought back. She didn't know how much it would hurt, but she asked again if he would still fight. 8th chapter. The guy looked at the girl and was ready to continue fighting. Arrows flew around. The girl beat them off with her two-handed sword. Since the guy decided to fight, the girl will hold and protect him. The guy didn't understand why he had to pretend to care about this inscription. He will no longer blindly trust and wait for help from someone. In the end, they have no choice but to fight. After the young man gave the order, the army prepared for battle. The guy was fed up with this battlefield, but now he's used to it and won't die. The girl, considering this turn of events, said that she could teach Yuxin the basics of hand-to-hand combat, showing everything clearly on the enemies. First, if the limit is reached, it is necessary to swing the sword to the very end. The guy was surprised by how strong she was. The man told the army that now there is no way back. You need to fight putting your lives on the line. After that, the whole army moved to attack. Secondly, it is impossible to hesitate during the battle. Yuxin thought that if he wanted to survive, he would have to kill the monster, because if he didn't, he would be killed. The guy tried to cope with the enemies on his own, but he was penetrated with a sword. He realized that it was very difficult to kill even one person. He felt all the hellish pain again and didn't know if he could even survive here. Thirdly, one should never lose hope of returning home. At this time, a bunch of spears and arrows pierce the girl. 9th chapter, a swing of the sword. The air is pumped up. Li Yuxin feels tired all over his body. It's the same thing again, one vicious circle. Every action is familiar, the feeling that you got into Groundhog Day. The girl strikes again and again. The guy holds the defense with dignity. And here again her look and the phrase that you should never lose hope of returning home are visible. After that another blow was struck. Li Yuxin was obviously tired of all this, but the phrase hooked him in the sense of home, because it's all a game. Everyone here is just sacrificial angels created by Li Hunjiao. Li Yuxin flew into a rage. Indignation poured out. How could she know what a house is? How could she know why he is fighting here? He was furious, started attacking furiously, and between the next batches of blows he told her to stop acting like she knew everything. Everything could end there, but her look, it was not ordinary and clearly spoke a lot. And just as she was about to say something, dozens of arrows pierced her. With that, she dropped out of the game. Li Yuxin was furious. He looked at her blank stare and wondered only one question. What did she want to say? Here the guy gathered his thoughts. There were more than 100 enemies in front of him and there was always only one goal, to return home. He was sure to fight as long as he could swing a sword. Rushing into battle, he wanted to hook the thinness of one. Even defeating one enemy already meant being one step closer to home. But as soon as he ran up to the enemy, he was immediately surrounded by soldiers from all sides. He realized that now there was nowhere to run and nothing could be done. He already knew that an unbearable pain was about to overtake his body. Another second and his body was pierced by long sword blades. It gets dark in the eyes again, and the body becomes wadded. The mind is lost under the yoke of hellish pain. 20-second simulation, reboot. He groans from the remnants of pain and gets back to his feet. Rage towards the enemy blazes in his body with a clear fire. He hates everyone. He is determined to win at any cost. Picking up the sword in his hands, he rushed into battle again. A wave and the first enemy was defeated. He continues to advance, a few more swings of the blade and there are no two enemies. Then he feels pain again. He was attacked from behind. But his thoughts are completely different. 3. This time he was able to defeat 3 enemies. Rebirth again and again all over again. The same opponents, the same place. Li Yuxin is not going to give up for a second. He rushed into battle again, clear confident movements. Time after time, a new enemy has been defeated. It is immediately clear that Li Yuxin has already got used to it. He got used to the weight of the sword, to the eternal screams and noise in the circle. He got into the taste. Now he feels confident. Li Yuxin defeated more and more enemies each time. He already lost count of how many were defeated this time. Each time his skills, endurance, agility only grew. With each new rebirth, he became better, but a strange feeling did not leave him. He could not understand what the reason was, when suddenly he did not hear her voice again. The same girl. She goes to meet him. She turns to Li Yuxin and again she falls to the ground from an enemy arrow. It's the same thing every time. She is dying before his eyes. And then he realized, it's all about her. The ending is repeated over and over again every time. Regardless of the outcome, the girl is pierced by arrows, and the main character simply does not have time to do anything. Li Yuxin realizes that she is just an ordinary simulation character, but the feeling he felt, he didn't understand why he cared so much. 10th chapter, the 65th simulation has already arrived. A new reboot, and all the old actions. The main character defeats enemies one by one. The more time passes, the more he is reborn. Thereby he begins to notice more small details. Previously, it seemed to him that banal luck allowed him to win several enemies in a row with his amateur movements. But his actions and techniques show mastery. He perfectly deviates from blows, and even if he is struck by a spear or touched by a sword blade, he does not fall unconscious. Li Yuxin has learned to endure pain. He has learned to endure any plot twists with fortitude. Li Yuxin finally realized he's not just particularly lucky. He's really getting stronger. He's improving over and over again. But here is the very moment when he is left alone. All his allies have long been defeated or have treacherously fled. Although Li Yuxin himself believes that let it be so, initially the main goal was to return home, which means this is his personal battle. With these thoughts, he rushed into battle again when he suddenly froze. He saw that girl's body again. She would be with him all the time. Even when he thought he was all alone, she was actually there and fighting. He was shocked by this. Just why? What was she thinking at all? But Li Yuxin didn't have time to finish the thought. The enemy sword forced the main character to be reborn again. 97th simulation. The reboot started again in the midst of the battle. Li Yuxin stood side by side with the girl. He could not stand the smile on her face and asked what had amused her so much this time. To which the girl was surprised. She had no idea what another time he was talking about, not having time to really understand what is happening at all. For a second the hesitating girl is pierced with a spear. The main character is furious, tired of the same games. He tries to get at least some answer out of her. Why every time before she dies, there is a smile on her face. It's all the same again. The battle, the enemies, the noise. But the thoughts in Li Yuxin's head are getting louder than the surrounding chaos. Why she does it all the time? He could not find the answer. The battle was still going on. He was wounded. There was a feeling that there were no fewer enemies. And she could not answer his question in any way. Therefore she would not leave. Why she was always fighting for him. Li Yuxin was on edge. He was about to lose his mind from the eternal tension. He finally wanted to understand what was going on here, but the answer still did not appear. And at the moment when the answer could have already been received, the main character realizes that arrows are flying at her again. Without thinking twice, he covers her with a shield, and she hugs Li Yuxin tightly. Hundreds of arrows are flying at them. He continues to close it, writhing in pain. But he already understood perfectly well that she is not going to answer him. 11th chapter. From time to time, Li Yuxin began to understand only one thing. In this game he has no allies, no one to rely on. From time to time, when he died and was reborn, he noticed all new things, and now he understands that no matter what happens, no matter how things go, this girl is always there. Every time she gives her life to protect him. Li Yuxin watched her a lot, tried to find a trick. But all he noticed was her movements. In each cycle, she moves differently. It seems as if she does not belong to this world. Just one detail. Every time it loses before him, and every time it can't say something to Li Yuxin. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he shouted, he could not get an answer. And then he realized that he would obviously have to change tactics. They lost again. 137 simulation. The battle is catching up again. The enemy troops have already squeezed the plane, but the general is not even going to do anything. Li Yuxin does not hide his contempt, directly tells his troops, his allies, that he does not care about them. The only one who worries him now, and then his gaze fell on the girl. He took a few steps to meet her and stopped right next to her. Looking straight into her eyes, he made the final decision. Having given the order, he rushed to the front line, ignoring all the indignation of his entourage from the army. He knew that now he would be able to fight to the very end. He believed that he would definitely have enough strength. The order was given that it was necessary to follow the general, and the army rushed into battle again. The siege of the fortress began. There was already painfully familiar chaos and confusion in the circle. Again, many fighters died on the battlefield. Li Yuxin had a simple plan. He struck down one enemy after another with his sword in order to reach the end. He decided to do his best to find out who he was, to finally understand her real identity. Then he would finally be able to change the course of events and get out of this trap alive. And here again, those weaklings who called him their general either fell during the battle or fled like cowards. Well, let it be. He was clearly able to cope on his own. His skills were honed to perfection. His blade skills became flawless, and survival reached an almost immortal state. He was like a real winning machine. When the moment came, where only these two again remained among those who could stand on their feet in this hellish cycle, there was only one option. Under the astonished gaze of the girl, her general stood over her as a human shield. He knew that now a rain of arrows would begin to fall on them. Arrows flew like a sultry downpour. They pierced the flesh of Li Yuxin. He endured unbearable pain. The girl looked at him with horror in her eyes, and he demanded explanations from her. He reached the end so that she survived, did not die before him, and now he just needs to know who she is. 12th chapter. Yuxin wanted to hear the girl's last words, so he shouldn't have let her die before him. Therefore, the guy stood in front of her, covering his back from the rain of arrows. They pierced into his body, piercing through. The young man interrogated the girl, asking who she was and what she tried to tell him before she died. He really wanted to know who she really was. The girl, with one movement of her hand, grabbed the guy by the collar and pulled him to her, hugging him, thereby covering his body from the arrows. Yuxin couldn't figure out what she was trying to do with it. But again the arrows pierced her body, and she died in his hand, not saying the same phrase. He could not hear these words again, but he guessed what the girl wanted to tell him. It seemed to him that she just wanted to protect him. But even if his assumptions were correct, he still did not understand what the girl meant by protection. Every time everything ends the same way. She tried so hard to protect him that she was dying all the time, and he didn't even know her name. He had tried to deny everything before, but before he realized everything, this girl had become the only person he considered his ally in this place. Nothing mattered anymore, but he was only interested in her. Yu Xin decided not to ask the girl who she was anymore. Instead, he asked only one question: what her name was. The girl seemed embarrassed and silently looked at the guy. He said he didn't need anything else, just wanted to know at least that. Since the guy got to this place, for some unknown reason, at this moment he smiled for the first time. The girl was silent for a while, embarrassed, and then reported that she did not have a name. The guy got a little angry, because he thought that the girl had lied to him. The red-haired guy standing next to them told Yu Xin that he should have known that this girl was an elite soldier of the Li family who was trained to perfect a great goal. In other words, she was just a tool for war, nothing more, so there is no doubt that she has no name, no nothing strange, and he doesn't have to worry about such little things. The main character was greatly hurt by these words, and he yelled at the guy, telling him to shut up and that this was his night, so he did not dare to treat her as a thing. 13th chapter. Even when everyone else betrayed Yu Xin, the girl fought by his side until the very end. Maybe she really was just a line of code programmed for this, but the expression on her face set her apart from the crowd. She was definitely different. Not like everyone else. He was wondering why she was different. The girl said that she was not so different, because she was just one of the general's soldiers, the same as everyone else. He expected such an answer from her, because she always told him the same thing. Once again, the man shouted that the enemy troops had reached the plains. Yu Xin decided that from now on he would have to plunge into these endless deaths again. But his heart began to beat harder. Energy seemed to explode inside him. He thought it might be the anger he had accumulated over all these reincarnations, but it turned out to be the wrong one. There was some unknown force in him that was swaying inside, and his whole body was burning and itching. The army wanted to flee again with horror, but the guy shouted to them not to retreat, because if they have the strength to run away, then they will be enough to kill another enemy. The man picked up the idea and ordered everyone to fight, putting their lives on the line. After these words, the army continued to fight. Yu Xin turned to the girl and told her to listen to him carefully, because he wanted to personally give her an order that would not concern anyone else except her. He said that from now on, she did not dare to die before him, and if she violated the order, he would finish her off himself. In his mind, he begged her to stay alive until the very end. After that, he went to his army and told them to make way because he wanted to lead them. For some reason, right at this moment, he felt that he could do anything, and it didn't matter 1,000,000 enemies or 10 million. The battle has begun. One of the operators woke up and decided to look at the monitors. Everyone else in the room was drinking coffee and talking. The man decided to see if the simulator was working by reaching for his glasses. After all, in his opinion, it didn't matter how stable the subject was. By this time, they should have completely gone mad. He put on his glasses and looked at the monitor and was shocked, so the same one called the CEO. At this time, Li Yu Xin fought bravely, killing everyone in his path. Hong Jiayu turned his attention to the monitor and was horrified. 14th chapter. The man was surprised that there was a female knight in the simulator. He didn't understand who she was or who even added a female knight to the simulator. Just think, an NPC they didn't even create got into the simulator. Maybe it's a bug. In order to maximize the disintegration of the personality, each death reset allows you to feel all the pain in colors. Thus, although this real hell is fraught with significant risks, the workers have always managed to extract everything they can from it. But suddenly someone appeared who can overcome this endless cycle of deaths, and then, as compensation for all the deaths and suffering, an absurd and strong monster will eventually turn out. However, for this to happen in an almost perfect simulator developed by the director. No, this is impossible, because an ignorant high school student is simply not able to overcome this barrier on his own. If this is the only thing, does it mean that this bug has some positive effect on the psyche of the student? The man shouts and orders his workers to immediately separate the female knight and Yu Xin, and then completely erase all memories of this girl. If there is a lock on this, which cannot be removed, then just reboot and melt the young man's brain. The workers are doing their job. Suddenly, at this time, the hero noticed something strange. During the battle, he began to see everything that was happening on the battlefield. Everything in front of him was moving as if in slow motion, and even those who were far away. He even saw an archer standing at the entrance and aiming straight at the hero. He saw the direction of the arrow very clearly and therefore was able to dodge it. At that moment, the night girl standing behind the hero shattered the arrow. Yu Xin realized that by the sound of the girl's breathing, he could tell that she was behind him and was still perfectly following the special order. Smiling, the hero's sense of self-confidence increased. Then one of the warriors, armed with 2 spears, seemed to be waiting for an opportunity to attack Yu Xin. The young man, tired of countless battles, grabbed the man's spears and defeated him in a fight with one blow. From this moment on, the hero is ready to face anything. He promises himself that he will come home no matter what. 15th chapter. The hero destroyed one enemy after another, moving deeper and deeper into the crowd. The night girl was fighting behind him, not lagging behind. After a while, when most of the enemies have already been killed, the hero notices that only he and the night girl remained on the battlefield again. Yu Xin lost count of how many he had already killed. Soaring into the air, he attacks the opponents again, realizing that he has already eliminated about 100 people. But for some reason, instead of the expected decrease in enemies, they only become more and more. The fact is that at this time in the office, workers are creating more and more opponents to kill the hero. Suddenly, a night girl approaches him, who asks him if he can still fight. She leans her back against him and he feels her warmth. Of course, he knows that this is contrary to common sense, but he feels an inexplicable warmth in the places where their cold armor touches. He replies to the girl that even if he can't fight anymore, he should do it, since he won't live a second in this place if he doesn't fight. The girl says that the battle is a heavy burden for the general. Every person, no matter how peaceful his life is, has his own battlefield hidden in his heart. Yu Xin thinks about the words of his friend and remembers his everyday school days, when he was usually late for school lessons, studied at his desk during the day, and went to a computer club with friends in the evening. The girl also adds that it's very easy to lose in your own battlefield, because you can just give up on everything. Giving up is such a simple decision, but that's when everything will come to an end. However, if the hero does not retreat and will fight to the bitter end, then the inner battlefield will be with him until his very last breath. After her words, the hero understands why, despite the countless deaths that he has experienced, he can still stand on his feet in a place like this. Besides, there was always a night girl behind him. He decides to ask her why she defended him all the time, expecting that this time he will not get an answer. Everything will be as usual, but he still wants to ask. He says he has to find out, so he asks for at least some kind of answer. In her thoughts, the girl is already giving her SLV, and this answer sounds like this. This is because for me you have become the very battlefield that I cannot refuse. 16th chapter. The hero realizes at the moment that he does not even need to turn his head to follow the girl's gaze and understand that his feelings have become so acute that he can sense her approach. The approach of what they have never been able to overcome from the very beginning. That is, a shower of arrows. The hero turns to the girl and says she still hasn't answered him. Does that mean she's giving up? At this moment, the arrows were already covering these two. Then the girl lets go of her sword and approaches the hero. At this moment, her footsteps were different from all those he had seen before, because there was not a trace of sadness or uncertainty in them. They were like she had nowhere to hurry, because those steps were just for him. The girl hugged the hero, covering him with her body. She whispers in his ear that she will never give up in front of the general, because it is impossible. At the last moment of her life, when arrows pierced her body, she said that, as a general, he could never give up. After going through this endless cycle of deaths, the hero thought that he had already got used to this battle with death. But there was only one thing left that he could not forget. He shouts at the girl to get her hands off him right now, and then breaks the arrows on her back. He shouts at her that he ordered her not to dare to die before him. When the shower of arrows ended, the girl said that the general would also never give up his life and uncoupled his hands, and she disconnected. The director looked at it with a smile. Yu Xin begged the girl to come back and said that she was still alive, because she herself said, never give up and hold on until the very end, so that their story would last forever. He equates her words because, just as she will never leave him, he will never leave her. The hero in tears begs her to open her eyes. Suddenly the girl starts coughing, which means that she is alive. He asks her not to die, if not for herself, then at least for him. There was a huge army of opponents ahead. The hero ordered himself to move, despite fatigue and wounds, and even if the muscles are about to tear, he must go, because that's the only way they can survive, no matter what. 17th chapter. I listened to the heavy breathing of the hero girl, so I asked her not to switch off and to be patient at least a little so that he could save her, no matter what. The enemy army was advancing. The hero with the girl on his back was surrounded by opponents. At the moment, he realizes that there is no time to be distracted. If he wants to survive, then he needs to move, but his strength is already running out. He tells himself to move, even if the flesh is torn and the muscles are in pain. At this moment, the hero screams, gathering all his strength and all his fighting spirit. He felt as if his whole body was in agony, but at the same time there was an indescribable power that was bubbling inside him. He ordered himself to get up and move on. Then suddenly the army of opponents one by one lost their fighters. The hero destroyed them all. The director, seeing this on the screen, did not understand where the hero got such power from. One of the workers says that it is difficult to determine the cause. Even he did not understand what was happening. There was a huge mistake on the monitor screen, and someone suggested that Yu Xin's skills were like a black wind blow, smashing everything in its path. All the opponents were horrified by what they saw. Suddenly, a night girl on the hero's back called him. She told him that it was not too late and could he give her a name. The hero wonders why she asked for it right now, so he said he would do it later. Immediately, he felt the girl begin to shake her head. The girl who always unquestioningly should have resisted his commands now. She says if he gives her a name right now, she will never forget him. Yu Xin looked at the sunset and came up with the name Sepia for her. He announces that from now on he will call her Sepia. The girl smiles and says it's a good name. The name Sepia now reminds Yu Xin of reed fields against the background of a scarlet sunset in his hometown. Then suddenly the girl took her last breath, and the hero, feeling it, was very angry. 18th chapter. The hero swears that he will never throw a rash. At this moment, his aura begins to fade, and, noticing this, the opponents advance. After the error, it was written on the computer monitor that the 138th simulation session had ended. The director understands that this time he still managed to somehow kill the hero. He didn't think that this schoolboy would become so strong. Suddenly a man is called by his employee. He has found a way to share Yu Xin with this night girl. At this time, the hero's thoughts were only about Sepia, which he could not save, although he managed to use this strange energy, but he failed to break through the enemy formation. Nevertheless, this time he will definitely save Sepia, even if it means cutting all the enemies of the hero. The reboot of the 139th simulation session has begun. Opening his eyes, the hero again hears how the knights address him, saying that the enemy troops have reached the plains. He turns to the army and shouts the name of the night girl. She said she would never forget that name. But why now? Looking around, the hero can't find her anywhere. Suddenly, he notices a girl's two-handed sword in the crowd among the knights. And at that moment, everything inside him was empty. He calls out the girl's name again to find out where she is. Then suddenly his comrades ask who he is looking for. The red-haired young man thinks that it is very embarrassing for him to call the hero a general. Yu Xin was a man who inherited the mantle of a greater predecessor. The general had several nicknames, for example, an empty place or a cowardly one that only knows how to run away. It is under such names that he usually goes. But now, looking at him, the young man did not understand how the guy standing in front of him could radiate such pressure, which only a real general possesses. Yu Xin shouted at her army to tell them where Sepia was. He is told that only God knows where the person he is looking for is. Then he grabs the captain who said it by the collar, and all the knights draw their swords at once. Here the hero says that he already knows perfectly well that the army will most likely follow this old man, and not him, and he also adds that he knows perfectly well that this old man considers him stupid and cowardly, just like a dog. Here the captain tries to calm him down, not understanding what the general is talking about. Suddenly Yu Xin lifts up the captain. Seeing this, a red-haired comrade can't believe his eyes, because taking into account the armor, a man should weigh more than 100 kilograms. But Yu Xin was able to easily lift it. Moreover, Hallenberg is the captain of the Knights, a knight of the order, and has a whole squad under his command. So this is not an opponent that a youngster is able to deal with using only his own strength. At this time, the heroes shout that he absolutely does not care what others think about him. He just wants to know one thing, namely, where Sepia is. Everyone thinks that the heroes are crazy for everything, because no one knows who Sepia is. Here the red-haired young man shouts that they do not understand who he is talking about, but first he asks to let Captain Hallenberg go. Turning around, the hero grins, and then the young man does not understand why he has such a thirst for blood. And he also cannot believe that this brat actually scared him. The hero lets go of the captain, throwing him into the wall, but at that moment he approaches the red-haired guy and grabs him by the throat. He wants to ask him the same question. Then the captain of the Knights shouts, not understanding how the young man can move like that. He asks him to calm down, because there is not a single person with the name Sepia. Civilians have already been evacuated. Here the captain gets kicked with such force that he flies away from the hero. 19th chapter. All the soldiers watching were shocked by what they saw, but no one dared to approach. The hero shouted that Sepia was no civilian. She was the one with whom those present on the field could not even be compared. She was his only companion on this never-ending battlefield. She was a knight among knights. The hero points to a huge two-handed sword lying on the ground, and says that he means the owner of this one and a half blade. Here is the captain, the vague sword, and the hero's address, which, perhaps, he meant number 232. 32. Suddenly, the young man is covered with a bluish aura again and approaches the captain. The man feels a terrifying shadow that is approaching him. He can't believe that this particular shadow really belongs to that cowardly heir of the one he once knew. The way the hero looks reminds the man of the supreme commander of the empire. Even if you look at his appearance, you can understand that his ancestor looked exactly the same. Yu Xin says the knight's girlfriend's name was Sepia, not number 232. Then he asks where she is. The man says that he only knows that the girl is now in the infirmary. Yu Xin doesn't understand why Sepia is in the infirmary. He asks to be taken there now. After reaching the infirmary and going inside, the hero examines all the victims, when he suddenly notices a girl lying unconscious. He approaches her directly and does not understand what is happening here, because Sepia is unconscious. The nurses ask what the general is doing here, but the young man left them without an answer, and then asked what happened to this girl. The women said, apologizing, that they, too, were completely confused. Sepia has been lying here for about 10 days, and all this time she has been in this state. The hero does not understand how 10 days have passed, because they just fought shoulder to shoulder, and it turns out that she has been lying here for about 10 days. Here the hero remembers that the place he is in was created by Li Haiyangu, so he may well pull off a similar trick. He asks the nurses if she will ever wake up, to which the girls cannot give an exact answer, and then they ask him to keep his voice down while he is in the infirmary. The hero wonders if he will be able to see again how this girl opens her eyes and wakes up. Could he just watch helplessly as he lost her? Everyone around you will be amazed by the words of the hero. Then one of the nurses said that the hero will be able to do this. If he finds the Immaculate Mary, then she can cure any disease. The girl says that if the hero brings Sepia to her, then she is sure that she can be saved. The hero asks what he needs to do to meet her. There is only one way to do this. It's to win the battle. 20th chapter. If the hero can reach the end and meet the Immaculate Mary, then he will definitely save Sepia. So, in the end, if the hero wants to see the night girl again, then he has no choice but to win this battle. It's pretty simple. He will save Sepia, and they will not fight together again until the very end for the sake of returning home. Then one of the soldiers breaks out into the infirmary. He says that all the military headquarters have been destroyed, and the enemy will soon be here. That means he has to fight until the last moment. Leaving the infirmary, he mentally asks Sepia to wait for him a little longer, because only then will this battle finally end. The hero has never admitted it yet, but in fact, during these countless battles, he thought about giving up many times. But thanks to Sepia, he believed that he could overcome all this hell. At this time, the enemies broke into the infirmary and began to kill the knights. Heroes, looking at the knight's girlfriend and thinking that when he saw her, she always said that she would cover for him. That's why Yu Xin felt so lonely when she disappeared. If he really loses her, then this war will grind him to powder, but for now he has a reason to keep fighting. The hero draws his blade and uses the aura. He says he won't give up until victory is his. After all, in order to return home and save Sepia, he, no matter what, must fight. He will fight to the last drop of his blood. Enemies attacked the hero in a crowd, but he just started warming up. Suddenly bluish rays of light appeared from the crevices of the infirmary. And at that moment, the enemies, along with the walls of the infirmary, flew out. The hero killed one enemy after another. All the other knights were shocked by what was happening. Suddenly, flying out of the infirmary with one opponent, the hero directs his gaze to the ground and sees the captain of the knights there with a red-haired guy. The two also noticed him. By the way, they didn't fight, they just ran away. At that moment, one of the opponents struck the hero a fatal blow with a spear. Yu Xin realized that he had been deceived once again. The 139th simulation has been completed. 21st chapter. At some point, one thought arose in the hero's head that what is happening is an endless hellish loop. He didn't know when it would end, and now he doesn't even have her with him, so most likely he will die again. He will die again, time after time, without any changes, and in the end, in the midst of pain and suffering, from now on he will have to fight alone. Without Sepia, he understands that you should not even hope for help from others, because they don't think about anything and just run away. The hero also does not understand why they are trying to escape at all, when their lives depend on this battle in general. Suddenly he realizes something. The launch of the 140th simulation is immediately announced. The hero again hears the familiar phrase that enemy troops have reached the plains. He asks about reinforcements, whether they are nearby. Then the knight captain asks what Yu Xin is talking about. The hero does not understand why they are so surprised, because he just asked if reinforcements had arrived. But no one understands what the general is talking about, although it was expected. Then the hero realizes that it turns out they have more troops that he doesn't even know about. These troops are not just some kind of detachment, but a whole reinforcement. The hero understands that there is no point in asking anymore. But why did they hide this information from him? Then suddenly he understands what all these people are up to. In fact, they were using archers to stall for time. It turns out that the direct descendant and all this nonsense from the very beginning was a trick to push the hero to the abyss. Here the captain of the guard shouts and begs the general to give orders. The young man understands that in fact they all wanted and expected from the hero only that he would be sacrificed. While they themselves, not having it, people were waiting for reinforcements. All they needed was a clown who would be dressed up like a general. In addition, there is no other explanation for all that these people have done. Because from the very beginning the hero was surrounded by desperate people who only wanted to give him to Blackwyne. The knight's captain tries to dissuade the young man. He remembers the names of the captain and the young man, Hallenberg and Joseph. Then he tells them that whatever their beliefs and views are, from now on they cannot be hypocritical. Joseph shouts to the hero that it was necessary, because apart from that, they had no other choice. Finally, the hero finds out the reason why they all did this, because they believe that there is no other way. But except for one person, he understands that if he were in their place, he wouldn't be much different either. It was a good plan, however, as everyone knows, the hero must win this battle, so from now on they will no longer wait for reinforcements. Joseph doesn't understand how the hero dared to say that. Here the captain of the guard plunges his sword into the ground. He assumes that the hero considers the battle to be some kind of game. The hero considers them all just pathetic, because they are going to escape even before the battle itself, and now he dares to look down on him, but even death cannot rescue him from this endless slaughter. That is why, even if his body is torn to pieces, the hero cannot stop, because otherwise this hell will never end. He shouts that he will not repeat and orders all the knights to gather in front of the castle gate. 22nd chapter. Then the following order, it is necessary to bring all the horses in front of the gate now. The enemies were already waiting at the castle wall. Time the general's order was carried out, and the horses were brought to the gate. As ordered, all the horses were collected, but the thing is one mare that resists and refuses to budge. Then the captain of the knights notices a familiar horse. It was General Lee's horse. When the hero went down the stairs to the army of knights, everyone froze. He asked if all the horses were here, and the captain said yes, all the horses were here, but he didn't understand what the general was going to do with them. Yu Xin gives the following order, namely to open the gate. He repeats once again that everyone should listen carefully and follow the order of their general. They must open these gates, and then go out of them to break through, taking advantage while their opponents are focused on the walls of the castle. And then everyone should immediately go to Blackwyne's bet, and already there, fight the main opponent. The hero inspires everyone, saying that they will be able to defeat him and drive the invaders from their lands, because this is the only way to survive. At this time, the general's horse was fully ready for battle. Here Joseph begins to laugh at the general's plan. He says that the general is really crazy because he wants to die so much. Here the captain of the knights says that as a deputy he dares to talk to his general like that. Joseph interrupts him and says that the general, using such a small number of troops, is preparing to storm the enemy base. If so, then the main character is just a fool that he does not see beyond his own nose. Yu Xin shouts back and says that in fact, they can't fully realize what situation they are in right now. He also shouts that they have no brains at all because they really think that Blackwyne will leave them all alive if they humbly bow their heads after he kills the general. To this monster of mercy, pleading means nothing, so this plan won't work. Suddenly, at this moment, the old general's horse breaks down the door from the stable. The mare rears up. 23rd chapter. No one could hold this horse. The knights were surprised why this horse was there and how it came out of the stable. Here Joseph shouts to the knight to catch this animal and calm it down. But the horse turned out to be very violent, so no one could calm it down. They even tied her muzzle with ropes and tried to stop her, but they still managed it with difficulty. And the horse did not even budge. Then the main character jumps right to her. He draws his sword and cuts the ropes. He says that if he just watches, he thinks that these knights will be the first to be trampled to death by this horse. Captain Knights asks the general not to approach her, because this is an unusual horse. Yu Xin didn't understand why this horse was so mad at all, and she also looked like she was trying to say something. The horse looks through the gate and sees the enemies advancing through the walls. She starts to get angry, and then the hero understands what she wants to say. The mare is coming right at the hero, and then the captain of the knights says it's dangerous, and I think that this kid can't die here. Then the hero grabs the horse by the rope that was tied to its neck and instantly stops it. The hero understands that she feels the same as he does. In fact, the horse wants to go crazy on this terrible battlefield one more time. The hero says that even in this hellhole there are still those who deserve respect. Then he decides to take the horse with him until the end of this battle, on which death itself exists. The horse stares intently at Yu Xin and notices in him the same old general who was her master. The horse bows its head and sits on its knees. Let the general saddle it. Everyone nearby was shocked. 24th chapter. At this time, the director, who was watching the simulator, did not understand what was the reason for what was happening inside, because all this simply could not be. The knights rode on horseback, and were led by a hero who saddled the horse of an old general. The hero rides a horse for the first time and thinks that in reality it feels exactly the same or a little different. He does not feel any discomfort and fear of falling and does not understand how this happens. And at one point he thinks that it's all about the horse, which adjusts the pace itself, because it feels his clumsiness. He tells her he's fine, so she can run as she wants. Thanks to the enhanced feelings that the hero was somehow magically able to awaken, there is no need to worry so much anymore. The horse understands him and accelerates the pace. Suddenly, everyone notices how quickly the general began to gallop. He was moving closer and closer to the enemies with lightning speed. The opponents did not expect that they would be attacked from the side by people who, according to their plan, were inside the walls of the palace. The hero throws a spear, and it, twisting, destroys about dozens of opponents at once. However, they were still stronger, and they were led by the terrifying Blackwind. The man looked furiously at the fortress in front of him and said that it would be finished soon. He also recalls the main character, Li Yuxin, calling the Reaper the one who took his left eye. The fact is that the main character is his descendant, and now the hour has come when he will take revenge. However, he had heard a rumor that the Reaper's son had a reputation for being pathetic and spineless, a non-entity. If that's the case, then he'll just rip out both of his eyes. At this time, the hero was fighting an army of opponents. Everyone present on the field was shocked by his skills. Someone shouted that it was an ambush and ordered to stop the hero, but it was impossible to do. The hero's horse jumped from the first enemy to another, and also participated in the battle itself, destroying opponents. Someone from the enemy army shouted that there was only one hero, so you can't retreat. You need to surround him and kill him. The young man takes the mare on the reins and turns his horse around and dodges the spears flying at him. Watching all this, Blackwind asks the young man not to disappoint him, calling him a descendant of the Reaper. 25th chapter. The young man fought hard, eliminating the enemies one by one. He tells himself that he has just started. Enemies surrounded him. The allied troops were simply shocked by what was happening. They couldn't believe that the general had paved the way for them. Suddenly, one of the knights shouted that everyone should rush straight ahead after the general. If they did not want to die, then they should not fall behind. The hero directs his army directly to Blackwind. Raising the sword, he uses the aura to eliminate as many enemies as possible. At this moment, Blackwind notices this and wonders whose aura was just there. Suddenly, his knights run up to her. The man does not understand what is happening. It looks like some kind of circus. Then the knight is told that they were ambushed by enemy troops. Blackwind didn't understand what his knights were carrying. He wonders who is this daredevil that dared to ambush. One of the knights says he didn't believe it either, but it's true. And the one who will bring in the enemy troops is none other than Li Yuxin. Here Blackwind bursts into terrifying laughter before the upcoming battle. He doesn't understand what kind of person even dared to say that Li Yuxin is a coward. Blackwind considered the hero a complete psycho, because no sane person would dare even think about breaking into the thick of the battle. And yet the man could not believe that the hero personally came for him, so as a compliment he is going to prepare a little surprise for him. At this time, the hero is fighting, and it doesn't matter to him whether there are 1,000 opponents or tens of thousands, because no one can stop him, and no matter what, he will go forward right behind Blackwind. Suddenly the hero hears a sound from a horn, and at that moment a shower of arrows spreads out on him. Here a passage of enemy soldiers is formed in front of the hero, and at the end of this passage there are 3 strong warriors on horseback, and Blackwind himself is among them. The man smiles, because this aura was really Li Yuxin. The hero rushes straight at the enemy general, and he only needs his sword. At this time, the directors and their team watched everything through the monitor screen. The hero believes that he will do it, although he still cannot fully control this spark of power that is smoldering in him. However, he will have enough for just a moment, but he asks this power to concentrate on the tip of his sword. Blackwind is delighted with what he sees. He thinks that the heroes need to at least be just so inspired that he can fully enjoy how he will tear him to pieces. And then they attack each other with their auras. 26th chapter. When Blackwind attacked the hero, he managed to block his blow, which surprised the man very much. He didn't understand how the hero was able to block his blow of Blackwind, Nemia's messenger, and the lion incarnation. Blackwind considers the hero a small and inexperienced boy. However, he was able to resist him. The hero expected such strength, but the enemy turned out to be just incredibly strong. In the end, the hero was pushed aside anyway. However, he can't just give up. Uttering a terrifying roar, riding on a horse, he strikes his blow, because now that he has come so far, he will never retreat. The opponent strikes him, knocking the hero off his horse, but he plunges his sword into the ground and drives away a few meters, but still remains on his feet. The hero realizes that the enemy is still too strong. He tries to dodge his attack by jumping into the air, and then quickly ducks from the next attack. The man shouts, asking where is the energy that he felt at the very beginning, and has the hero finished pretending to be the heir of a great general. The hero understands that he wants to turn the whole face of his opponent. In one of the jumps, he notices the enemy's horse and quickly destroys it. Landing on the ground, he realizes that Blackwin has disappeared from sight. After a moment, he feels it from above. He doesn't understand what's going on, because he thought he got stronger, but he can't lift a finger. The hero feels this insurmountable gap between him and his opponent, as if they don't even belong to the same species. The young man understands that he wants to cut him. He grabs the hilt of his sword with one hand and the blade with the other hand to block Blackwin's blow. The man sadly says that he is sorry, but it seems that the fun has come to an end, because the hero's sword has cracked in half. The enemy's weapon defeats the hero. He understands that there is such a big difference in strength between them. The young man, looking at his opponent with his eyes almost closed, notices something. Usually, when the battle ends with critical hits, it is unknown what happens next. However, if you use such a powerful attack constantly, even if you are a messenger of death, you will still get tired. The simulation is complete. 27th chapter. The young man can't believe that this monster is tired. However, even if you are so strong, if you use this powerful attack for a long time, you will still get tired. Thus, if the very first attack was the best, then after 60 seconds, the opponent reaches his limit. The hero must survive this critical blow, lasting only 60 seconds. Simulation overload has set in. The hero is transferred when Blackwin jumps on top of him with his attack. The young man evaded her, and then he undertakes to just hold on. However, the enemy will strike blow after blow, which will kill the hero over and over again. Blackwin says that more fun is needed, but the hero thought that there were only 30 seconds left. He strikes with his sword, but the opponent dodges, and then grabs him with his hand behind Yu Xin's head and throws him aside, while striking from above, and then piercing him with his weapon. The hero is reborn again and returns to the time when Blackwin should have grabbed him by the head. But this does not happen because the hero evades. He waits until the opponent gets tired. The hero believes that maybe this battle began from the moment he entered this hell, but perhaps this end was destined by fate. Then the things he went through, and those countless deaths, they meant something too. Meanwhile, hero, there are only 10 seconds left to hold out. He believes that it is necessary to endure, even if death has almost embraced him. The hero pulls out his sword and plunges it into the ground to hold on, because there are 9 seconds left. Then he starts the countdown and attacks his enemy. Blackwin is at a loss as to what is going on. The hero is very fast and agile. Here, for example, he left his sword in the ground, and he jumped away from the opponent's hammer, grabs his sword, and the air rushes. Blackwin doesn't understand how such a brat dares to attack him. Suddenly, the hero remembers the words of Sepia when she said that it would be very difficult to lose the battle, because you can give up. However, if you don't want to give up, then the battles will continue. The hero decides that it's time to end this battle, because there is 1 second left. At this point, he raises his rank and ranks to Knight Master. First chapter. Once, far away in the mountains, a child was crying in a stable near one of the houses. The owner of the house, a huge man, thought that robbers had broken into the house, because a small child cannot be here in the mountains. He took an axe and went to catch the enemy. The man is determined to destroy the enemy that was in the enemy's lair. The enemy deftly dodged all the hidden traps and disappeared. But this is not an ordinary thief. He rushes into the stable, waving an axe, but there was no one inside. He thinks that ever since he found out that he and his wife can't have children, a man hears the sounds of a baby crying everywhere. Turning around, he sees the baby grab a small bundle. The man pressed his body to his ear to determine the heartbeat. Finally, hearing the little knocks, he hugged the baby to him. Suddenly, his wife Alina comes into the stable, who addresses him by his first name, Vincent. The girl starts screaming at the sight of the child. The man, looking at the small bundle, says that now it is their baby. 12 years later, the young Shire, as his son's parents called him, was reading a book presented by his 40-year-old father. The man had already finished chopping wood, so he was ready to pick up his son and go home. Suddenly, a young man asks his father about how magic can be used, but Vincent couldn't give an answer. Passing near the playground, the boys began to discuss the main character, and one of them even said that, according to his mother, Shire was picked up somewhere. Vincent, of course, has heard everything the children are talking about, but, pulling himself together, he offers his son to go to the city for his favorite fruits. The man regrets that he pays little attention to his father's care, but despite this, his son is always there. The young man, holding a book about magic, wants to learn as much as possible about it. They arrive in the local town of the Kingdom of Tormia, Krias. Cheyenne tries to look at everything in more detail, but the father says that he will leave the boy in Grandpa Martin's store and just in case reminds him that you can't go into dark alleys and run into aristocrats. An elderly man rejoices at a young assistant. The young man tries to find out from his grandfather if he knows how to use magic, to which the man says he does not know. However, there are many books about it nearby. You need to go through the alley directly to the bookstore. When the boy ran away to the store, an elderly man decides to take his book and read it, thinking that there are ordinary children's fairy tales. But when he opens it, he sees the most complex magic formulas there. At this time, in a bookstore, they are trying to put Cheyenne out because he wanted to take one of the expensive books to look at it. A woman cannot allow such books to be soiled or crumpled by an ordinary peasant boy. Then Cheyenne became curious where his father buys books, because they are very expensive in stores. Suddenly the butler comes into the store. The man came for his order. The hero at this time quickly flips through a couple of books, but they are all the same. He understands that it will be difficult to read something in the store. Suddenly the boy notices a man in a suit who is carrying a lot of books in a box. He runs after him, but when he turns the corner, he sees a man throwing them into a huge pile of garbage. Now he understood where his father got his books from. The boy does not understand why there is such a difference between him and the aristocrats, and why he cannot be the same. Suddenly a knight stops him. The man says that it is impossible to wander alone in this place, because there is an aristocratic quarter behind these gates. Suddenly a second man approaches, who says that he looks like an orphan. Or maybe he was sent by bandits at all. Suddenly, Cheyenne runs away, leaving his jacket in the hands of the men. After a while, the hero, standing behind a flower bed with flowers, examines himself and thinks that his father will definitely scold him from what he saw. The boy notices his shoe and goes to the wall where he was lying. Suddenly, Cheyenne hears voices behind the wall. Someone is talking about magic. He understands that there is an academy of magic behind the wall, and right now there is a class on the study of magic. The man says that the most important thing in the study of magic is neither knowledge, nor effort, nor money, but insight. An elderly man tells the essence of insight using a simple example with 2 apples. He also says that since magic has always existed, magicians are able to accept and understand it through insight, so it has the properties of being more accurate than knowledge and faster than effort. If the hero has the opportunity to be a wizard, suddenly the man says that he wants to hear the opinion of the child standing behind the wall. Cheyenne is at a loss and does not understand what to do, run or answer the teacher. One thing occurred to him that if he didn't climb over the wall, he would regret it forever. Merch Alpheus is the director of the Alpheus Academy of Magic. He is a certified level 4 magician. The man offers the young man to keep him company, and Cheyenne, closing his eyes, jumps over the wall. Second chapter. Covered in mud and leaves, the young man crumples, but approaches a group of children. They say that Cheyenne is not an aristocrat and he is not allowed here. But the elderly director calms the guys down and asks the boy to approach them. He also asks about what in his words interested the boy so much. The hero says that he wants to look at magic, because he has never seen it, but only read about it in books. Here the children called him a liar, because a commoner can't read books. Shirok makes a bow and asks to show magic. The old man creates a wind spell, and the kids fly up into the air. Suddenly they all start to fall. The hero closes his eyes and begins to cry. Opening them, he sees how the children start laughing at him. The teacher tries to explain what the magic is, but the hero begins to be rude to him. Then the man tries to explain a little more complicated. Magic acts beyond common sense, and this is called mental processes exploring the truth of reality. The young man says that in fact magic is irrational, and because of this it is closer to the truth. The books describe everything in general terms, so he came to this conclusion himself. A lot of great people's ideas were considered irrational and rejected, but in the end they were recognized as new truths. Maybe that's why the truth is hidden in irrationality. Cheyenne asks what he needs to do to start learning magic. Meherolpheus thought that the young man in front of him is a genius child, and despite the complexity, he is trying to get the right information to study it on his own, and he really believes that he will succeed. But, unfortunately, he is just a commoner. He wants to demonstrate the difference in strength and asks the girl shaman to enter a state of mind. When a magician focuses, his mind becomes so sensitive that he feels everything around him. It is also said that outstanding magicians are even able to count how many leaves on a tree from afar. Such an overly sensitive mental state is a state of mind. A wizard entering this state sees the outside world using supernatural potential, and as a result he can control reality. Cheyenne understands that she didn't just count the number of coins, she immediately felt the wholeness of the situation happening in front of her. The old teacher says that anyone can do this. The boy just needs to practice in a quiet place and feel himself, and then erase. Anyone can do it, but not everyone can. He suggests that Cheyenne try it right here. If he couldn't eventually enter the spirit state, then he wouldn't have the opportunity to study magic at all. The hero closes his eyes and tries to concentrate and feel himself. But what does himself mean? The brain is not the option, because it is just an organ in reality with feelings that a young man feels cannot exceed the brain's representations, because he does not define them. but feels them. He slowly erases the things he feels one by one. Soon he ceases to feel his existence, and only the mind remains sensitive. When the hero opened his eyes, the director thinks that the young man did not succeed, because things that happen in a state of mind are in another dimension. Synesthesia is the sensation of the aroma of sounds, the taste of light, and the feeling of the landscape on the skin. He pats the boy on the head and says that if he practices, he will be able to hear even more sounds. The lesson is over and everyone leaves, and Cheyenne is left alone. An elderly man notices that the young man is very talented, but if he had been born an aristocrat and trained from an early age, he would have become an excellent magician. Cheyenne jumps over the wall and can't come to his senses to believe that everything really worked. Third chapter. He remembers everything that happened. The hero heard a loud sound, entering a state of mind. It was as if he had been torn to pieces and scattered all over the world. No, he was the world itself, trembling with immensity, even for a moment, but he left his body and became infinity. He ran away and accidentally ran into dangerous men. One of the men grabs the hero by the collar and asks for compensation. He also assumes that the kid is from a gang of wolves. Then suddenly they are distracted by a girl named Amy. Cheyenne notices an aristocrat in her. The man says that the hero wanted to kill someone, but Cheyenne begins to deny it, but gets kicked in response. When he hears a terrible review about his mother, the young man's expression changes, but it doesn't help, and he gets kicked again. Amy stops them again. The men say they were going to sell him to a village in the south, because the hero is a commoner, so there's nothing to worry about. At one point, the girl notices the young man's face, as if he is losing his mind. Suddenly, Cheyenne notices how everything freezes nearby, and he sees a flash. The hero plunges into memories. They grab him by the collar, but suddenly a huge whirlwind appears around the boy. Enemies fly up into the air and, falling, get seriously injured. After landing, the girl asks about the essence of the boy. Where did he study magic? Because commoners can't afford it. Suddenly, they are interrupted by people who came to the noise. The girl quickly moved and ran across the roofs, and Cheyenne ran through the alleys. After a while at the Carmy's estate, the head of the family is Carmy's Shakur. Furious, Amy goes up to her room. At one point, she asks her father about the Magic Academy. If there is anyone who works there, then he should introduce them to Amy. Fourth chapter. Several months have passed. Winter has already come. Vincent comes home, but his wife says that Cheyenne has gone to the logging area to bring home wood. A man goes in search of his son. In the spring of this year, when he and Cheyenne went to the city, the young man almost got lost. He said he just got lost, but something clearly happened then. At that moment, Cheyenne was standing next to a tree that was all pierced with an axe. The magic he had conjured in the spring could no longer be used. On that day, it turned out to call her unconsciously, although it is not known which intermediate process was missed due to insight, because he has no knowledge of rabies. However, despite all the misunderstandings, the hero is still able to enter into a state of mind and feel everything in this process. Such feelings include the surface, shape, smell. The hero can also sense every part of the tree in front of him at the same time. He also feels something in the center of the tree, but can't explain what it is. Swinging an axe, he splits the tree into splinters, because this is magic. At this moment, Vincent, standing behind the tree, does not realize that he has just seen a thunderclap. A thunderbolt is a special felling of a tree with one blow, by hitting the weakest point of the trunk. This felling is called so because when a tree falls, it makes a sound resembling thunder. Cheyenne realizes that for the first time he was able to successfully cut down a tree after hundreds of attempts. It turned out to do just like the day when he called the wind stream. The boy says that he does not need accidents. He wants to gain extensive knowledge. He makes a decision that he will train day after day for the chance that one day will present itself. 3 years have passed. The grown-up hero takes an axe to cut down the tree again. He doesn't see with his eyes, he feels with them. After a successful workout, Cheyenne goes home. Looking back, he realizes that it has been about 5 hours since he has been in a state of mind. It was as if he had become one with nature. Leaves swaying in the wind, worms moving in the ground, and the sound of trees absorbing moisture with their roots. After all, to enjoy it all in full, even 5 hours is not enough to enjoy. Arriving at the house, he sees white horses and a huge carriage. His parents and an unknown man were sitting in the house. His father introduces him as the butler of the Ogent family, Timurin. The Ogent is a second-class aristocratic family in the kingdom. Why do a man working for nobles need me? The man comes over to look at the young man. He asks about whether he can read, and also asks about his respect for his father. The man does not let the hero say anything. He offers to work at the Ogent estate. The fact is that the Ogent family is going to transport books from a huge home library. In total, there are almost 10,000 books, among which there are important works that cannot be leaked. The contract will last 2 years. Transportation will be carried out by other people, and sorting will only be done by Cheyenne and Hero. The young man understands that in the library of the Ogent family, you can definitely find important information for magicians. However, Timurin says that only the Ogent family and the Cheyenne family know about this transportation, so if at least one book goes missing, or the servants spread about the contents of the library, then the whole family of the hero will be killed. Since this is a big enough risk, the butler offers enough money in return. Vincent is blown up and says that he did not turn to the Ogden family for money. He just wanted Cheyenne to be able to fulfill his dream. The man starts laughing. Then Cheyenne's father says that he asked to take his son so that he could read books. However, the butler says that his task will be to control the process, not to read books. In fact, when the boy was little, his mother, Alina, taught him a couple of words for fun. But by the age of 6, Cheyenne could read on his own. The main character has very expressive facial features and thick hair, but his most prominent talent is that he is very smart. There is even a theory that noble blood flows inside him. Vincent blames himself, because if he could have been raised by aristocrats, and not them, then his son could even go to school. But Cheyenne is his son, which means that it would be more correct for him to study in the mountains. However, when he started doing this, the man became afraid, because after all, this boy was raised by a woodcutter. One day, on a trip to the city, Vincent fell at the feet of a nobleman. He asked to take his son to work, but to give him the opportunity to read books. Now he tells the butler that he does not need any money, because if he knew that his son would not be given the opportunity to read books, he would never have begged for it. Vincent kicks the butler out of his house. 5th chapter. The man turns around and leaves, but is stopped by Cheyenne, who says he agrees to this job. He says he will never divulge information within the family. The man says he will pick up the young man in a week. He can refuse before that, but when he arrives at the estate, he will not be able to leave it until all the work is done. The man leaves, and the hero, turning around, goes to hug his father, and tears flow from his eyes. Vincent swears that he will protect his son and asks him to return unharmed. A week later, the man asks to sign the papers, and then they take Cheyenne away. Sitting in the carriage, he enters a state of mind and sees his parents hugging each other and shedding tears. He is trying to figure out if he can safely live 2 years without harming people with huge influence. The house of the Ogden family is located in the city of Creus. The family of warriors has been educating professional swordsmen since ancient times. The previous head was a state swordsman of the 3rd class, and the current Bishop Ogden, an honored knight of the 4th class. To be more precise, they control the military forces of the city. They also pass near the landmark of the Ogden estate, the Great Alley. Cheyenne looks around the territory and realizes that this is the home of 2nd-class aristocrats. He is shown the office, as well as the housing of the butlers. Then they show him the place where he will stay. He is met by the butler. They enter the Great Ogden Library. The books will be moved from here to a new library, so the hero's task is to sort all the books. Every week he will be given a list, according to which he will collect books. The working schedule is from 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening. After that, there will be free time, but he is not allowed to go outside, and without special permission, he cannot enter the estate. The next day, Cheyenne, dressed in a servant's uniform, gets to work. He understands why one person is organizing the books. Structuring should be consistent. For example, if he needed to classify the book History of Fencing, someone will have an opinion to send it to the category of professional fencing, and someone will decide to send it to a comprehensive history. The hero also found out another fact while working with structuring. This is that all knowledge is interconnected, and the basis for their connection is history. Knowledge accumulates on a line called history. That is, history is something like the spine of knowledge. Careful study and using it to reinforce other areas will speed up learning. Among 10,000 books, about 850 are historical. Cheyenne is sure that he will be able to read because of the 2 years he is in the estate to achieve his dream and become a magician. Suddenly, the deputy chief comes into the office. The hero closes the book because it is impossible to let anyone see what he is reading, because there was no official permission. The butler says that he manages to sort books well, which means that he works overtime. He is about to leave, but suddenly turns around and approaches. Cheyenne thought he got caught while reading outside of business hours, but the man says that not only butlers come to this library, but also the head of the family, as well as his children, so he needs to carefully monitor his uniform and not belittle the dignity of the Ogden family. And he is also asked to do something with his long hair. At night, reading a book, he realizes that it is too difficult for him. He reads about 3 emperors and 7 kingdoms. One kingdom of Tormia is difficult to study, and here he needs to understand 6 more. It will not work to learn by heart, because if he wants to use information at any time, then you need to perfectly understand every event. Suddenly, he falls asleep. The butler, coming into the room, takes the book from under his head. He noticed that the young man had been reading this book for a full lunar cycle. He does not think that the hero will succeed through study. If he was digging into practical books, then entry would be prohibited outside of working hours. But he's just a stupid dreamer, so you don't have to worry about him. 6th chapter. It's been 3 months since Cheyenne started working at the Ogden estate. The hero began to put his hair in a ponytail, like his father. The hero gradually got used to the sorter's work, and also learned some information from the servants. This time, one of the servants came to take a book for the young master. Cheyenne says that the last book was not returned, but they are already asking for a new one. He asks not to lose her, otherwise it will be difficult. The man says that aristocrats don't care if books are lost or not, and only butlers worry about that. The most shocking fact for the young man was that the nobles do not care whether the books disappear or not. However, there are hardly any important works in this library. An aristocrat can live in peace if the commoners are loyal to him. Peasants risk their lives for the sake of what the nobles won't even remember. To prevent the slightest oversight, the servants become cold, heartless, and without a sense of pity. He says to himself that he doesn't care about the nobles, and it's better to just live very quietly. Suddenly, a young man bursts into the library. By the blue hair, Chiron understands that this is the youngest son of the Lord, Ryan Ogent. He runs up to the hero and asks him not to tell anyone that he is here. The young man notices his height and width. Then Ryan crawls under the table so he won't be found. Suddenly, an adult man bursts into the room. He asks about a boy with blue hair the size of peanuts. Chiron says that the man means the younger master. The man introduces himself as a fencing teacher, as well as a teacher who has the right to beat Peanuts. He also says that if he doesn't want to get a beating, then it's better to tell him where the boy is. Chiron says that the young owner is hiding under a bookshelf. The man pulls the young man out from under the table and, knocking him out, drags him back to the training ground. This teacher has a huge authority, so Chiron had no choice. But according to rumors, the teacher sent the young master to the mountains for a month. He read one book in 20 days, and after he fully realized it, he read 82 more in 4 months. As expected, it was difficult only at the beginning, and the following books did not contain radically new information.